What's up, babies? Fireboy. That's who I am. This is my channel. And we're here. And it's that time of day and week that we are going to do some writing today. Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm having fun. I'm having fun with this project. I mean, like, obviously I am. I sit here and I work on it every single week. Not every single week, but most every week. Every week that I can. Sit here and work on it, and I have a blast doing it. So I'm stoked about this project, having lots of fun with it, and I'm stoked that I get to sit here and keep doing it, especially because outside it's been sunny again. We've had some good weather as of late. I mean, you know, interspersed with some rain and all that kind of stuff, but yeah, we've been getting lots of sun and good stuff going on around here, and it's hard for me to be bummed out about life. That's for sure. And I don't know. I suppose for me, definitely being in a good frame of mind also kind of contributes to being in a creative state of mind. So it's all just good positive feedback loops today for me. Hopefully the same can be said for everyone else, whether you're watching live or watching a replay or whatever. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad we're going to spend some time being creative together. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a good time. So let's I don't know, let's not talk about, hold on, my camera got jostled, I think. Yeah, but now it's like chopping off the top of my head. Hold on, we'll get there. There we go, this is a bit more centered. It needs to be perfect. It all needs to be perfect. There we go, that's better. Alright, anyways, let's go do some writing. Let's go do some writing. That's what I want to do. That's just what I want to do today. I want to have some good times, doing some good writing, getting creative, continuing to build our world. That's just, I don't know. I think it's a good way to spend life, you know, creating things. Like, I don't know. Sometimes, like, I feel like there's a lot of people in the world that feel like just creating something for the sake of creating it is like an almost wasted time. It's like if you're not hustling to try and get a profit out of it or something like that, then why do it? It's like because it's fun and it brings me joy. I don't know. No, not everything needs to have a beautiful reason. Sometimes you just like to create for the sake of creating, and that's kind of what we're doing here. I mean, like, we're creating something practical that anyone can use, but it is nice to just sort of think about the fact that even if we don't use the campaign ever, we can feel good that we created it, you know, that we made something. And it's like, I don't know, it's like if you're sitting there working on a painting, like, yeah, you know, maybe you might try to sell your painting, but even if you don't, even if you just like paint something for the sake of painting it, and then it kind of gets tucked away in a closet, you know, because you had your fun painting it, and that's good enough, like, that's fine, right? Same with writing. So anyway, I'll try to not spend 2 hours waxing poetic about it, and instead leave it at 2 minutes and start working on stuff. I'm gonna have us open up like we always do. Just working on our little enchantment project, our little rune system that we've got going on here. That's been an awesome creative warm up for me. So I've been digging this, and so we're gonna keep doing that, opening up a little bit. Hey, Game Squad, how's it going? Good to see you here. We're gonna stick with that. And so we've been working on our level 3 abjuration spells. Is kind of where we left off last time, and we still got more of them to do. So let's do exactly that. Last one we did was dispel magic, dispel dat spell, you know, here or there. We're going to go ahead and bring up our where is it? There it is. That's what I'm looking for. Why am I struggling? Oh, I know why I'm struggling. It's because it's me. But you know, there's a lot to unpack in that one, and that's not what this stream is about. I'll tell you what. That's what we're gonna work on. We're gonna work on these level 3s. Let's get 3rd level, filter them, just because that way we can systematically go through and be making projects. So we got the dispel magic, which was very similar to counterspell, but not quite the same. But counterspell is kind of like preventive, and dispel is more reactive, right? It's kind of like preventive versus reactive medicine and all that stuff. But yeah, let's do our next one, which is gonna be Glyph of Warding. Oh, this is gonna be a little complex, but we can do this. This is gonna be great. Glyph of Warding. I'm not really familiar with this spell, so let's go ahead and set this up here. Glyph of warding. Alright. Cast a spell, you inscribe a glyph that later unleashes a magical effect. You inscribe it either on a surface, such as a table or a section of a floor or wall, or within an object that can be closed, such as a book, a scroll, a treasure chest, to conceal the glyph. The glyph can cover an area no larger than 10 feet in diameter. If the surface object is moved more than 10 feet from where you cast the spell, the glyph is broken, and the spell ends without being triggered. Okay, so you have to be right next to it. Interesting. The glyph is nearly invisible and requires a successful intelligence check against your spell save DC to be found. You decide what triggers the glyph when you cast the spell. For glyphs inscribed on a surface, the most typical triggers include touching or standing on the glyph, removing another object covering the glyph, approaching a certain distance of the glyph, or manipulating an object or the object on which the glyph is inscribed. For glyphs inscribed within an object, the most common triggers include opening that object, approaching a certain distance of the object, or seeing or reading the glyph. Once a glyph is triggered, the spell ends. You can further refine the trigger so the spell activates only under certain circumstances or according to physical characteristics such as height or weight. Creature kind, for example, the ward could be set to affect aberrations or drow or alignment. You can also set conditions for creatures that don't trigger the glyph, such as those who say a certain password. When you inscribe the glyph, you choose explosive runes or a spell glyph. When triggered, the glyph erupts with magical energy in a 20-foot radius sphere centered on the glyph. The sphere spreads around corners. Each creature in the area must make a dexterity saving throw. Creature takes 5d8 acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage on a failed saving throw. Your choice when you create the glyph, or half as much damage on a successful one. Spell glyph, you can store a prepared spell of 3rd level or lower in the glyph by casting it as part of creating the glyph. Spell must target a single creature or an area. Spell being stored has no immediate effect when cast in this way. The glyph is triggered. Stored spell is cast. If the spell has a target, it targets the creature that triggered the glyph. Spell affects an area. It is the area centered on that creature. If the spell summons, okay. And then at higher levels, okay. This one's interesting. This one's already almost already a rune in and of itself, right? This one's gonna be a weird one to try and turn into a rune. Hey, Amix, how's it going? Good to see you here. I'm wondering if I even want to bother with this one, honestly. I mean, like, basically what it would be is you would make a wand of Glyph of Warding, but I think the difficult part about it is if we're trying to make like an enchanted item, you know, an imbued item with this, the Spellglyph one doesn't really make much sense, right? Because that's basically giving you an item imbued with every spell in the book, or an item that's only usable by magic users, and that kind of defeats the purpose of it, right? So, doing good. I'm doing good. Thank you for asking. It's a nice day out here. It's a nice day, and I got some time to sit here and be creative, and it's hard to feel down about life when that's going on. I'll tell you what. Golly, this one. I mean, we could do this one. We could do this. Hey, Howl of the Lost. Good to see you. Yeah, I don't know if this one... I definitely think this one, if we're going to make it into a rune, we're going to get rid of the spell glyph part of it. And it's basically just going to become, rather than Glyph of Warding, it's going to be Glyph of Explosive Runes. It's kind of what it is, because I just don't think this works as an enchanted item. I just don't think it works. You know what I mean? Like, it just feels... It feels like I say, this basically just would either grant anyone an item that's imbued with every spell, 3rd level or lower, or it's an item that's really only functional for someone who's already magic user, in which case they would probably already have the spell. So it just kind of defeats the purpose. So I kind of think that it would be wise to just make this one only explosive runes, and we can do it that way, and we can just modify things so that's how it works. I think that'll do. I think that'll do kind of what I'm looking for here. Yeah. Yeah, let's at least let's give it a shot, right? We might as well at least try it. Let's take the parts that we're going to use. This, I might simplify a lot of this. This is a lot of instructions on just where it can be put. We can probably simplify it because I feel like most of it is pretty common sense, which is, you know, helpful for a rule book. But since we're creating like a homebrew system here, there's a certain assumption that we can make about people already kind of knowing how, like, the basics of spellcasting and stuff work. So we might be able to thin this out a little bit, but let's things formatted a little bit here, and let's see what we can do here. Okay, so when you cast a spell, so we're gonna already massage this language a little bit, and we're just gonna say when you use the imbued item, you inscribe a glyph that later unleashes a magical effect. Inscribe it either on the surface, such as table or section of the floor or wall, and an object that can be closed, book, to conceal the glyph. The glyph can cover an area no larger than 10 feet in diameter. If the surface or object is moved more than 10 feet from where you cast the spell, the glyph is broken. The spell ends without being triggered. I think all of that is fair. I think all of that is fine. And I already have an idea about what the enchanted, like what a baseline, because I always give like an example of like a basic version of what, you know, whatever this imbued item could be. I always like to give an example of it. One, either to use as just a fun magical item to give to my players, or two, as a benchmark for if players find the rune version of it and want to try and enchant something, then it's like, okay, we got kind of like a benchmark of what I was thinking when we went there, so that's a starting place, and we can kind of go from there. And my immediate thought is it would be really fun if it were like a stamp, right? Like an ink pad rubber stamp, right? So you can, like, and the idea is that it stamps the glyph on whatever you want to put it on. And I feel like that would be kind of a fun, sort of unique item, and it's like a small one, and so it's like, you know, like because when I think about this one, I immediately think that what makes this one cool is the concept of putting it like inside a book or inside a folded piece of paper, and then planting that for someone for like a target to open and trigger the effects, right? Like this is almost like, it's almost an assassination technique, to be real. But like that's what this one seems like to me, because like the concept of just like putting the glyph on the ground so that when someone walks over it, it's like there's dozens of spells that kind of already do stuff like that. So do we really need another one? I think the one that's fun about this is the concept of, you know, if you know that they have, you know, like if there's a politician who's cooking the books a little bit and they have their own personal financial ledger or something like that, you could sneak the stamp into their ledger so the next time they open it, you know, then you can get your political maneuver taken care of or something like that. That's what my first thought is. And I think that would be a good one. Yeah. Yeah. I am realizing, though, I accidentally did one thing wrong for my format here. I need to get rid of this. We're going to get... Nope. Stop. Work for me. Grab that. I'm going to do that in right there. And then I need to just put in a regular bullet point right here. And we're going to play on any item that can... be used to touch the targeted area. There we go. Indeed, whole group is all up. What to take? Yeah, you can ask some questions. No doubt. I mean, if I didn't want to talk about D&D, then I'd just sit here and write in silence without streaming, right? Yeah, no, ask away. I love helping new players. Kind of like the whole point of why I started doing like a D&D world building writing stream, right? To sort of give new people ideas, especially give new budding DMs ideas, so that way we can have more DMs in the world. So I might actually be able to be a player for once in my life, because one day maybe we'll have enough DMs that I won't be forever DM. Yeah, I'm familiar with Curse of Strahd. I'm not an expert in it, but I'm familiar with it. Glyph is nearly invisible. It requires a successful intelligence check against your spell save DC to be found. Perfect. I'm just going to get rid of this link for the sake of making things a bit easier. Instead of spell save DC, we're going to say, because it's a 3rd level spell, we're just going to say check. We're just going to make this a DC 13. Because we can't use spell save, right? We can't use spell save. We can't use a spell save because it's an enchanted item that anyone could use, not just magic users. Forever DM. Yeah, seriously, Desmar. Seriously. It's, you know, like, I don't mind it because I love world building and I love being a DM and I love creating fun games for my players. But, you know, it's like, when I do get to be a player, I'm always like, oh, I get to just be a single character and I don't have to plot everything and I don't have to keep track of 8 million things. And I could just keep track of one character's turn rather than all of the characters' turns and all of these other things that just make my life so much easier. And I get to sit around and I get to just shove my face full of snacks rather than having to, like, constantly be talking and losing my voice. Great. It's a beautiful, wonderful treat. And to a certain degree, I feel like being a DM, you know, being a forever DM really makes you appreciate how amazing it is to be a player. Nice. That's always fun. I've got a player who, he's been really busy lately, so it's been a bit slower for him getting stuff prepared, but I have a player who, like, he's part of my group that we've been going for almost like a year and a half now, this group, and they were all brand new. I was the only experienced one. They were all brand new when we started, and he's been having so much fun. He's been getting so into it, and he started doing his own world building, and he's been building his own his own world, and it's going a little slower, but just the fact that he's wanting to build his own world so he can eventually take a turn being DM, I'm like, dude, you take all the time you need. You take all the time you need, because I don't want to scare him away, right? So it's like, take all the time you need, make exactly what you want to make, have it be this beautiful, awesome world that you're super passionate about, and I will absolutely be a complete and utter murder hobo that will ruin everything that you plan for you, because that's what players do. that's the player role in life, and there's nothing wrong with it. That's just the order of things. This is the way, as we all say nowadays, thanks to Mandalorian. Happy late May the 4th to everyone, since I wasn't streaming yesterday. No, that's awesome. I'm happy for you. I'm happy for truthfully, I'm happy for anyone who gets to be part of a regular group playing D&D. Because what a great life. when you have time and commitment from enough people to have a consistent D&D game going on. 7 years is impressive. 7 years is an impressive time. Okay, character going from level 45, level class, one level cleric, level druid, another level druid. Okay. So you've got, so you say, so you're going from 4 to 5. So, okay, so you want to bring your druid up to level of 4th level, and you still got 1st level cleric. Gotcha. Okay. Following so far. Following so far. Instead of only go to like level 10 or 11. So yeah. Oh, I see what you're talking about, the module. Okay, I thought you were saying like cleric could only go to 10 or 11. I was like, that's strange, but no. Okay, yep. That's how it goes. Oh, but every now and then there's someone who brought this up fast. Whoever he wants to be. Nice. Okay, nice. Makes a new NPC on the spot. That's all. No, like, honestly, like anyone who's DM'd, it's probably an NPC that he's thought of for a while and didn't have a good use for. I've got a million NPCs that I wish I could use. And then the flip side of it is, like, it's funny though that he would take that approach, because I also find though that as DM, my consistent issue is that every time I try to have an innocuous character, right? A character that's just like, you know, it's like, oh yeah, random shopkeeper that doesn't have any story going on. Immediately players latch on. They're like, oh, who's this NPC? I want you to be part of our party, and I want you to be our ward, and I want you to be an important person. I want to know everything about you, and I want to know about your family. I want to adopt you, and I want you to be like part of our crew, and I want you to drive our ship, and I want you to take care of our stuff, and I want you to be an innkeeper, and I want you to always be around and always know everything that we want to do, and we want to help and solve every single problem that you've ever had in your life. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, his name is Jeff the shopkeeper. He's nothing. He's no one. It once happened. My players were I don't even remember what led to it. I don't even remember what led to it, but my players were walking around a city, and I was just describing the scene. I'm like, yeah, you're walking through the city, you know, and you can see, and this isn't the richest part of town that you guys are in. There's a few shops, you know, if you glance down an alley, you can see a homeless person or two. And they immediately were like, oh my gosh, who's this homeless person? Like, it was like watching Britta from Community play D&D. Like, where she latches, like, you know, the episode where she latches onto like the random goblin waiter. Wait, that's what it was. I was like, it's not even a character that does something for this scene. I was just describing what you see. It wasn't even a definitive number of homeless people. They were just around, and they just like latched on. So it's like, it's funny to me that your DM would like do the opposite of what most people's issues are and like create another NPC, because I've consistently created systems in my games where it's like I can use the same shopkeeper no matter what city they're in, just so that way it can be like, there, you want to get connected to a shopkeeper, there, you can get attached to that shopkeeper, and now you care about them. And like, I'll do that just to have fewer characters to deal with, because boy oh boy, it turns into a lot. Usually chasing someone, another tavern knocked over someone. 3 players asked for directions and went off in that direction. Oh, the NPC cast. Nice. I like the suspicion. It's fair. It's fair, especially the way I write games. I go out of my way to just like sow every bit of distrust in my players that I can in any scenario, no matter what. Just try to make everything confrontational for them. So that way, when they do get suspicious about stuff, they're always rewarded, right? Although it is kind of funny to do the flip side, but you know. I mean, even if you don't know that they could possibly disguise self, it's a fantasy game meant to revolve around your characters as heroes running into all kinds of issues. You always be suspicious of everything. That's totally fair. Totally fair. You get a feat now. Level druid spells. So with the feats, I guess let's see here. How many feats to take? Yeah, so like, I guess what I would say with feats is just read them, and if they sound fun, go for it. I mean, there are feats that are more functionally beneficial than others. But I guess this is kind of just like my approach to DMing in general. Is I always tell people, don't overthink the stats. Like, yes, you want to have a functional, cohesive character, but just build the character that you're going to have fun with. So if there's a feat that sounds like it would be really fun for your character to use, go for it if you have that option. Or the flip side of it is if the feats don't speak to you, then just take the ability score increase and just up one of your ability scores, right? There's nothing wrong with doing that. Just try and have in mind what your character is and what you want your character to ultimately be. And if there's a feat that serves that, take it. And if there isn't, then don't worry about it, right? Because they're just options that are there. So I mean, I guess that's the best bit of advice I can take. Because like, I don't know exactly who your character is and how you play the character. So it's really just kind of up to you and how they fit with your character. But I like, one of the big things that I always say is like, when you're just trying to build a character with like abilities and stuff that you like using, I try to build my games that there's no wrong answer, right? Like if you want your person to be really good at instruments randomly, then make them really good at instruments. And next time you're at an inn, try and earn some cash or try to use that, right? It's just like, you know, build the character that you want to have fun, that you will have fun role playing with, right? And playing the game with would be my best advice about it. Let's see here. Oh geez, things are take wizard, and what spells are good, what to do. So when you say take wizard, are you talking about adding a level to wizard? Because if you're already multi-classing, I would recommend not like triple multi-classing, because after a while what's going to happen is you're going to water down everything. So that's one thing I would stray away from. If you want spells, like you have cleric in there and druid, just work on those spells. Don't take wizard in there, and just kind of like max out at 2 for multi-classing, because otherwise you're really going to water things down. Because like a lot of classes don't get really cool stuff until like level 5 and beyond. So if you have like 5 classes that are all level 1 or 2, you know, none of them are really going to get their cool stuff. You can do a million like, you know, basic things, but when you only have one action per round of combat, that doesn't do much for you. So I'd be careful doing that if that's what you're talking about. If I'm misunderstanding, then just ignore me. But that's what I would say. Yeah, using player time is definitely the time to start doing all kinds of writing so that you can do less scrambling. That's why I like to use this stream to like also work on a campaign that I might be able to use one day. So that way, if I ever have to run a new campaign, it's like, hey, there's this one that I've been working on for a long time. But crime families is a fun idea. Just like factions in general, including factions in the games that you run is a really fun way to like give players choices on how they want to sow chaos in the world. So I always love doing that. Seems so straight strong in fights. Going for min-max. Seems a bit better for role-playing potentially. Yeah, I mean, it's what you want to do. It's what you want. Like, because the thing is like a min-maxed, like a character that kicks ass in battle, there's nothing wrong with that. That's their role-play. It's like the role-play is that they're just a brute that kicks ass in battle. Right, so there's nothing wrong with that either. It just depends on the experience that you and your table want to have. Like, it's worth considering what everyone else at the table enjoys, so that way you're cohesive with the group on the whole. But yeah, it's really what you want to do. Oh, I see what you're saying. The magic initiate feat. I got you. It you know, next time I might stand up so it doesn't go over my head, but I got you. Yeah, I mean that's fine. You can do that. Although I would say if you've already got cleric and druid, you've got plenty of spells. So I would look into something else that sort of complements rather than adds what you already have. But that's, you know, like that. Like I say, it's not there's no wrong answers. If you want the free spells and you really want to like lay into those to the spell use and stuff like that, then go for it. You know, don't let me dissuade you from building the character that you want to build. But if you're asking what my thoughts were, so that's what I would say. 3 rogue 1 pretty well. Level and fighter for some things. That may be better. Yeah. Like I say, the one thing I will say about multi-classing, if you go for more than 2 classes, be prepared to have all of your stuff feel a little underpowered. That's the risk you run of doing that, because you'll have a lot of things available to. So it's like, you know, you'll have something that works in every scenario, but the amount of damage that you do or your ability to hit will be reduced. You know, so it's like you might not have to as many situations where you're like, oh shoot, I'm a devoted spellcaster, but this thing's immune to pretty much all magics. What do I do? It's like, yeah, you've got more options to handle that situation, but like you're always going to be struggling to keep up with someone who's a bit more focused, you know. So that's always the thing to be careful with multi-classing. So yeah, like just 3 is I would say 3 is the absolute maximum. But in most scenarios, I would say 2 is really the maximum you want to do. Especially like if you're not, I guess if it's not going to be a long-term character, then you can really get weird with it. But if it's a character that's going to go for a campaign that's like 10 or more levels, then yeah, be careful with it. But I mean, again, like the experience is what you and your table build together. So like, you know, if you know something about the way the game's going, or just know something about how you want to play your character that I don't, then just like freaking ignore me and do what you want to do. The beauty of these games. Yeah, exactly. Multi into everything. I have level 1 everything and level 2, 3 other things. I have everyone's first level abilities. The like literal embodiment of jack of all trades, master of none right there. It's beautiful. Beautiful thing. Kind of. Holy wah. What the hell was I working on here? I was gonna make some enchantments, and then you guys got me all geeked out talking about multi-classing and stuff. No worries. It's not a scold on you guys. I love it. I love these discussions. Good stuff. Let's see. You decide what triggers the glyph. Okay, so for the sake of making this an enchantment, I want to, if we're making this enchantment, I want to change this a little bit here. Oh, they're making it, the trailer for that came out. I'll have to check that out later today. I didn't realize I was dropping today. Neat. That's something to look forward to. Awesome. All right, so you decide what triggers the glyph. Rather than when you cast the spell, what I want to do with this is I want to say when you when you imbue this rune on an item, right? So like that's one of the ways to sort of limit things so that items aren't like enchanted items aren't necessarily just like flat out like free use spells, right? You can kind of limit some things. One of them is that it's like 1 charge per day, and the other one is to make it so that like if a spell has multiple effects, when you enchant an item, you have to choose that one. So it's almost like you cast the spell on the item or transfer that particular instance of the spell on the item. So that's one of the ways that I do that kind of limits things to make sure that enchanted items don't get too overpowerful, although we kind of let them when we get up to like level 9 spells that we're going things with. But the glyphs inscribed on a surface, most typical triggers include touching. Yeah, we'll leave all of that in place, just because that's kind of descriptions and ideas and stuff. 5 players watch D&D campaigns, guides, videos. You know what's useful and whatnot, which is completely fine. In as many situations as possible. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Just identify. I see what you're saying. I see what you're talking about. So just trying to get a lot of like utility spells and stuff like that. Yeah, no, I think it sounds like you have a solid idea about it. So I don't, like I say, don't let me deter you. Looks like more Game of Thrones. I mean, I would kind of hope so because it's Game of Thrones, but something message and identify. But yeah, no, yeah, like I think that's a perfectly solid idea. And if that's what's going to work for your table, like I say, don't assume that I know everything. I'm just a scrub that sits here and plays nerdy games too often. Like I'm not a professional at anything. So yeah, if that's gonna work, you can do that. The flip side of it is take a close look at your cleric spells too, because clerics in a lot of ways are sort of buff and support characters. So if you've already got a level in cleric, think about just investing more resources in that and then get yourself an ability modifier rather than using the feat, because the cleric might have access to a lot of those types of things. So you know, because the initiate is the type of thing too that'll be really helpful early on, but like in a couple more levels, it might feel less necessary once you have access to more of your cleric or druidic stuff. So, you know, just read the spell lists really carefully, I guess is kind of where the solution for that kind of comes from. You know, is like just be aware of, like, make sure that you're not delving into the magic initiate because of things that you can still get from what you already have, right? So that way you're not sort of like doubling up on things that you have and shortchanging yourself on other cool things you can have. So, and as far as supporting a team goes, there are two attitudes about it that I 100% support either of them. One is that's a great idea to support a team, so that way you're a very useful character, especially helping out the newbies. That's a great idea. Or the other take that you can take on it is screw the newbies. Just do whatever you want to do and watch chaos reign. Both of them perfectly legitimate approaches as far as I'm concerned. Just as long as everyone in the group is having fun with it, then like I think it can be really fun if you have one guy who just sits there and like, as long as you're not like power gaming, making them all look stupid, right? If you just want I guess what I'm saying is, like, if you just want to have like a pigeonholed character and then all of you guys are just like suffering together, then gosh, that's hilarious. What a fun game. I think either one is optional. I think either one is a great option. Yeah, clerics are really good. Clerics and bards are amazing support characters. I think both of them kind of get a little underrated for that. So I did not, well, when did I get it cut? I haven't got it cut since the last time I streamed. I like kind of style it a little bit some days, but my method of styling is scoop product, wipe, slick, and then let it go. So it always looks a little different some days. So today it's lying a little more flat. So that might be what it is. It definitely looks different than it has most other days, but I appreciate it. I appreciate you saying so. Oh my, I do believe y'all giving me the vapors with these compliments. Ever so nice. Oh boy. Raven Queen Cleric. Ooh, goodness. That's a cleric. That's a cleric for sure. Oh boy. All of you guys are spoiling me with these compliments. Gonna inflate my ego more than it already is. You think my head's big now? I'm gonna look bald. My head's gonna get so big and thin out the hair. That's what's gonna happen. Oh, goodness gracious. Let's see here. I don't care about that. All right. That's it. What? Okay, we got this all figured out for that stuff. Because that's all just like examples of how things go. You can further refine the triggers the spell activates. Yeah. See, these are all just like descriptive example things. I'll leave it there, but it's really not necessary to worry about it. Because all of these things, like I say, the big thing is I want all of these things to, when you're enchanting the item, to be imbued on the item like when you enchant it. It's kind of what my thought is for that. I think that works that way. You inscribe the glyph, choose explosive runes or spell glyphs. So we're going to get rid of this part because we're only going to stick with the explosive runes because the spell glyph as an enchantment just kind of, like I say, it's this weird situation where either it's an item that only is useful to someone who already is a magic user and so doesn't really need an item that lets them be a magic user. I mean, I guess I could see where a spellcaster would like to have this to sort of have a free use of Glyph of Warding. They could give them, it gives them like one free use of it. But I don't know. I just think it's more fun if it's basically you just have an explosive, a Glyph of explosive warding instead. Yeah, that's the other thing to think about. Like if you have, 800 spells on your list, you still only have so many spell slots, and I always notice, and like it's a good observation to kind of cue in on for you, because as a DM I do notice a lot. I do notice very frequently when I have players who get very excited about having a whole bunch of spells to their name, and then like 10 sessions go by and then suddenly they're like, I was looking at my spell list and I like never use most of my spells. And it's like, yeah, because you find ones that are just like based on your character and your party. Like you find the spells that really pinpoint whatever niche that you fill in with your party. So you don't necessarily need to have 8 million spells, at your disposal. Like early on, it helps to have a lot of them, but once you start to kind of notice what your role is in the party, you can kind of stick with that. Not to like pigeonhole yourself, but that kind of frees up a lot of your, like, it makes, I guess what I'm saying is it would make, if you only had, like, you were only able to have 5 prepared spells at a time, and there's only 3 that you regularly use, like, ones that you use regularly, those other 2 are free up to kind of be what you want them to be, and those can be your malleable based on your situation at the time. So it's like having 800 of them all at once doesn't do as much for you. So being able to sort of, like, round things out, like I say, just taking the spell, like almost taking the ability modifier so that your spells when they land are more powerful or land more often might be more to the benefit of the team, right? Just to make sure that those 4 that you use all the time, you can use them every time without worry. That might end up being more beneficial. So that's a good thought to sort of cue on and keep in mind. It's not an absolute, there's plenty of times when having more spells is helpful, but it's definitely something to think about. Definitely something to think about. Let's see here. Terrible person. Even more that you held the party above almost everything. Okay, fair enough. That's the right way to play like an evil character. Like a character that's evil to the world around them, not their party. I think that's where a lot of people I think that's where people go wrong with an evil character in a party, is their evil character, they don't give them a reason to stick with the party, and so they just are kind of a dick to the party. And people, obviously that's not fun for the party. So it sounds like you got the right of it on like how to actually play an evil character, and it's more so that the evil character is just like a dick to the rest of the world, but will still absolutely die for the party, and like that's the best way to do it. It's like, because then they turn into that one asshole friend that everyone's kind of like, oh gosh, he causes so much trouble, but he's so nice to us and he's really helpful, so we keep him around, and keep them as that member of the party. Oh boy, oh boy. All right, let's see here. Okay, so now we can talk about the explosive runes. So it's going to be I'm just gonna like explosive rune option, right? Because that's just kind of what it's gonna be, and it's like kind of weird to have a phrase that way, but I don't know a better way to make it like still kind of true to the spell. I mean, we could reword it, but then we're completely rewording the spell, and then it becomes a question of like it, basically just for the sake of what it comes down to is, for my OCD, and feeling like I'm completing this project, which is to slowly build a rune book of all of the spells. If it doesn't match up one for one with a Glyph of Warding in terms of title, I'm going to feel like it's incomplete, and I'm going to feel like I didn't do it. And there's no logical reason for it other than I'm an insane person, and sometimes it's just easier to work with it than try to curtail it. So here we are. Explosive rune options. When triggered, the glyph erupts with a magical energy. The spear spreads around the corners. Feature your choice. Instead of when you create the glyph, it's going to be when you imbue the item is what we want to do with it. When you imbue the item. Because I don't want this to be like I don't want the imbued items to be too OP, right? Like, because when you do that, it kind of wanders down the specialness of being a spellcaster, right? What we're trying to do is we're trying to do a system that would basically give anyone a taste of being a spellcaster, just like how a weapon can give any spellcaster a taste of being a fighter. You know, a spellcaster isn't going to ever be proficient with a great axe, but if they can still swing an axe, you know, and maybe hit something, you know, it still gives them that option. And so this is a way to give players more diverse options on item-based combat as opposed to spellcasting-based combat. And also because magic items are badass and it's fun for players. Let's see here. Do the character want to have ability spells? How about multiclassing? Third class. Felt like it would fall. Yeah, you would. You would absolutely fall behind. That's the risk. That's the risk of multiclassing beyond 2. Like I say, you get watered down. So it's like you end up having 7 ways to hit an enemy, but all of them only do 1d6 damage. And when you're at, like, you know, fighting challenge rating, you know, of 7 or 8 monsters, that does nothing to them, and you're really going to feel like you're struggling to do anything. So, yeah. Which character you ever played? Nash the Orc Rogue. With a dip into Artificer. Villain of a different campaign. We successfully do rogue stuff. Embarrass the rest of the party. No more problems than I solved. Occasionally disgrace the party. Remember, I mean, like, it sounds worse, but it also sounds amazing. It sounds like roleplay wise, it's one of the best characters that's ever existed. That sounds absolutely fantastic. I love it. But then again, I'm the type of person who in D&D games, the more chaos that's happening, the happier I am. Like, I love when everything is just completely off the rails and no one understands what's happening anymore, right? Because there's 17 area effects stuff happening in place. One person's been, like, mind controlled by another person, so they're attacking their teammates and no one really remembers why. And then suddenly other monsters are coming in and monsters are fighting monsters, and, like, just the more chaos, the better. So that character almost sounds like it would be exactly what I would love to see, but maybe as a DM who thinks it's funny when everyone's struggling. So, you know, I tend to toe the line between being a very benevolent and a very malevolent DM for my players. Like, I love to see them succeed, but I also love to see them suffer. It's like, maybe that's why I love to see them suffer, so that way I can watch them succeed. Yeah, we're gonna go with that one because it makes me sound like a good guy. So, Golden Life has discovered time travel. Secure orc supremacy. See, I don't know, man. Like, that sounds funny. That sounds pretty funny. Like, because it sounds like it'd be a really good bumbling oaf type of character. That, like, he has these grand goals, but he never really succeeds at them. Like, he sounds like he would be a fun character. But I think a lot of that depends on the party and how you play him, too. Which is true of, like, every character ever. So, you know. You know. All right, so I think everything about this actually can stay the same. This is actually a pretty easy one once we just sort of determine which options are available as an enchanted item. So it's actually a really easy one to make an enchanted item because you use the item to make another enchanted item. So, like, everything's written as though, you know, trying to just enchant something. So it's actually pretty easy for us to manage this one here. So what I want to do, there's one thing I need to do. I need to go back into the actual spell thing. I do want to offer this option here. At higher levels, we're going to go ahead and put this over here. Another bullet. Get rid of this stuff because it just messes with my OCD about it. Bullet point that one. So this one, instead of when you cast the spell, it's going to be when you imbue an item with this spell. When you imbue an item with this spell, using a spell Instead of slot, we'll say level. Actually, we'll just say spell. Actually, the spell at 4th level or higher is just the best grammatic way to write that, I think. At 4th level or higher, the damage of an explosive rune glyph increases by 1d8 for each level above 3rd. If you create a spell glyph, you can store any spell of up to the same level as the slot you use for glyphs. Oh, yeah, I see what it's saying. Yeah, and so we can get rid of this one because we're not doing spell glyph. We can just kind of get rid of that part altogether. Bada bing, bada boom. There it is. Oops. Oh, I see what's happening. Yeah, that's... I don't think. I just care. Yeah. First level cleric, 4 levels into druid, and the rest cleric, overall level 10. I mean, if you do two and limit it there, you'll be fine. That's fine. Like, it's generally accepted that multi-classing into 2 classes is fine. Like, you will be a little bit combat weak, but if you really focus on being the utilitarian buff-focused character, which druids and clerics are both really good for, you'll be fine. You'll be very useful to the character, to the party. Just remember to know that your character is built to be a support character, right? And don't run yourself into combat all the time. So, like, I've got a player who it took him a little while to sort of realize that his real strength was being a support character. But now that he's kind of figured that out and he uses his character as a support character, he's one of the best characters in the party. Because as soon as combat begins, he's got like 2 or 3 buffs that he can just lay down on everyone to make them have advantage and or +1 or +2 on attacks and everything. And so, like, he doesn't do a whole lot of damage in combat. So when he kind of resorts to doing that, he's a little underpowered. But when he's playing that support role, he does an amazing job of controlling that battlefield and setting everyone else up to be the really powerful attack characters they need to be. So don't be afraid of multi-classing with just like 2 classes total. Like, that's totally fine. Just remember that you're building a support character, not a tank character, right? So don't try and have that character be someone who goes in, and does 5d12 damage every time, right? Have that character really focus on their strengths as a support character at that point in time. And you'll be fine. You'll be absolutely fine. I wouldn't worry about it at all. Wouldn't worry about it at all at that point. It's just that going beyond those 2, then you start doing that because you don't have time to, because like what'll happen then is like the support stuff will also fall behind. And so your supports won't do as much to help the players and everything if you're at like 3 or 4 classes in one character. So no, don't feel like you did anything wrong with multi-classing as it is. Yeah, 2 classes, that's incredibly normal. A lot of people do that. But yeah, like, you will feel a little weaker in combat, but that's fine because what you're talking about is your strength isn't going to be combat. It's going to be building up your team, right? And so just like, and it's like, I say accept that role. I don't mean that as in like accept the curse of it and just live with it. I mean like lean into that and really be that support character. Yeah, Lucky is a bit better for a more active character. It can still be plenty useful. So, read it and ponder over it. But, like, the other thing about it, too, is, like, the feats are always really enticing because it feels like getting free stuff. But never, ever underestimate the benefit of getting that ability score increase, right? Being able to, like, if you can get yourself up so that your spells, if you're doing a spell that someone has to make a save against, if you can increase that by 1, then you're like if you can get that ability score so that like your spell save is higher, right, or your spell attack is higher, then you're gonna be like you're gonna feel that. You're gonna feel like yourself hitting more often, and you're gonna feel enemies like failing against your stuff more often. So that's gonna be perfectly fine. Don't underestimate that ability increase if none of the feats are serving you. I always get excited about feats when I get to be a player, and then I look through them. I'm like, there's like one of them that serves my character. Other than that, I just want to get really good at my strength, so that way I can keep hitting stuff with my hammer and smashing their brains in, right? And there's nothing wrong with doing that, right? So yeah, I think everything has its merits. And it just kind of, like I say, it turns into just knowing what your character's role and what you want your character's role to be, and then just building towards that. A lot of times what I'll do is I will build what I want the final iteration of my character to look like for whatever the campaign's going to be done. And then I'll go back and sort of plan and know like how to build the character up to like what the final version. So it's like I think about what my character would look like as the ultimate hero at the end of a journey. And then I start off at like, you know, the weakest version of that and have them slowly build up and learn. It can make it sort of like a fun role-playing thing because you know how to role-play your character and build them up as a person. And then you can also know exactly what steps to take to get them up to that final version that you want. So that's something that you could think about doing. Although some people might argue that's a bit of a power gamer move, but I don't know. It's just me and my OCD. But it gives you the opportunity to sort of like try different builds as you're going and like understand what different things will do to your character, so that way you can know better what you want to do when the time comes. So being a healer of a group and having control over life or death, it's like standing over your own teammates. It's like I am in control of your fate. That's some like evil party member shit where it's like they stand up there and they're like, I'm in control of you. I'll heal you. That's like some real Loki level stuff right there. I like that. Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy. All right, let's see here. Let's get the mechanics of this buff, or this gosh, you guys got me talking about buffs and stuff. Oh, this is an enchantment here. Mechanics, need to, how it's cast. It's once per day. Once per day when item is placed, when is placed on target area. Yeah, there we go. There we go. And I see you there. I see you there. Let's get rolling. I forgot to call out because I got talking about stuff, but thank you. Thank you for being here. Glad to see you here. Glad to have you here. Let's see here. What did I just undo? Oh, the range. Okay, this has got to be contact, and then player, we'll say caster must remain within 10 feet is part of it. Is that how do they time casting area touch, and then it's, let me just make, excuse me, goodness, no longer 10 feet in diameter. Surface of the object is moved more than 10 feet from where you cast the spell. The glyph is broken. Okay, all right. I can delete that then. It's not, I was remembering that wrong. Boom, there we go. So it's like contact, you gotta make touch, whatever. Duration, what did it say? 1 hour that it lasts, the glyph lasts? Yeah, casting time is 1 hour. See, that I didn't realize. All the more reason to kind of nerf some of the options and stuff, because if you can just stamp it. So the duration, yeah, the duration is until triggered, we'll say. Until triggered. There we go. And then the group, not as much needed if you know what. Yeah, it kind of depends on how, yeah, healing a lot of times depends on the nature of the group. My group uses healers fairly often, but that's because I, as DM, like to crack down on how often they can use long rests. But if your DM is cool with you guys using long rests a lot, and or if the DM gives you a lot of potions and stuff, it's not as necessary. But my players use healing spells a bit more often, because I like to be a bit more strict on that, just because like it makes them think about stuff, and it makes them strategize their movements a little bit. And the way I limit it is I always say your packs can only carry so many days of rations. So it's like I don't make them sit there and like have to eat, otherwise they get exhaustion necessarily. But it's like you guys have 7 days to handle this before you either need to figure out where you're going to get food, or you need to return to base and then you're coming back to whatever you were doing, right? And so that kind of makes them think about their stuff a little bit more, I find. So that's just, so, but yeah, it just kind of depends on the nature of the party and how you guys do it. Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's Goodberry always makes me think of Nickelodeon. Welcome to Goodberry, home of the Goodberry. Can I take your order? I don't know if that resonates with anyone but me, but that's what I always think of. But yeah, like how important different healing things are is really dependent on the dynamics of the group and how the DM runs the table. I like to have things be a bit more strict, so players need a bit more healing. stuff. Just because to me it's always like it makes it difficult to balance challenge in a dungeon if players are just like after every battle taking a long rest and they're just free to do that. So I personally kind of crack down on that stuff. But that's just my approach. Just my approach. Yeah, like the other thing too though about healing is to keep in mind it might not. It's always a good idea to have someone who can do some healing, because one of these days you might get to that one battle where the monster's just a little bit harder than the DM expected, or all of your rolls are just a little bit more terrible than usual, and suddenly half the people are unconscious on the ground and you guys are in real trouble. You know, so that's one thing to keep in mind. One thing to keep in mind always. Tag save. So this one will have a save DC 13. And then the damage buff. This one's oh yeah, it's just got the list of the different types of damage that it can do. You can just kind of like copy and paste from in here. Where is it? There it is. Acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder are the types of damage. Boom. Copy that. And whoops, and we'll paste that there. Bada bing, bada boom. Perfect. Perfect. Okay. All right, we're making some progress. Going nice and slow on this one. Big spell combined with awesome conversation means the writing's going a bit slower, but I love it. I'm into it. But I'm going to take just like a 30-second break. I got to run to the bathroom, and I got to refill my beverage, so that way in another hour I can run to the bathroom again, because hydration is good. I only say that half sarcastically. I know I always sound like a sarcastic asshole, but I mean that. Hydration is good. Be hydrated. So I'm going to just, like, give me just 30 seconds. I'm going to run to the bathroom. I'll leave you guys right here just with the chill music. I'll be back very shortly, and we'll keep working on this. So I appreciate your patience. Alright. That is a much better bladder situation. Thank you for your patience. I'm not super keen on peeing on stream. That's a very different streaming service, and you guys got to pay me a lot more for me to do that one on camera. So just, you know. Oh boy. All right. I don't think we need any more additional. Oops. What's happening here? We don't need any more additional notes here. And that's good. It is right there. Yeah, 2 sessions ago there. Die before we could kill them. They kind of went into another dimension. Yeah. No, that's how D&D can get you too. Like, it'll lure you into that false sense of security. You'll feel good about stuff, and then suddenly you'll be faced with something, and you're in deep doo doo. The doo doo runs deep out of nowhere, and you're sitting there wondering what on earth happened. That's how it gets you. I mean, kudos to you guys in your party for knowing when to run. Kudos to you guys Because a lot of parties don't like recognize that, and they'll die on the hill, and you're like, well, you're supposed to run away. You guys are level 2, and that was an ancient dragon, but okay. That's what they'll do. Sometimes your worst moments can be your proudest moments. I mean, when it's a game, you're kind of free to let them be one and the same, you know what I mean? So, all right, let's see. I want to write down the example item for this, and then we'll go ahead and goof around with what happens if our players are enchanting an item with this spell and they accidentally make it sentient, or if they curse it on accident. But the example item that I want to give here is, I want to call this one the explosive stamp is what I want to call it, because they're all basically just the explosive runes, and it's a stamp. Items, and here's what I'm gonna say. Items popular among assassins. I always like the word assassins because it begins with 2 asses. I'm a bit of a child, if you haven't already picked up on it. If you're not already aware of the fact that I'm a child, this is your clue into the fact that I'm a big giant child. Items popular among assassins. These stamps can be discreetly used in frequented locations by the target. Yeah. Very good at making things look like accidents if done properly, like explosive rune in a fertilizer storage shed. It was a little dark. It's a little too real perhaps, but hey, you know, sometimes a game needs a little gritty realism, and there we are. So perfect. All right, I like this. I think this is the type of spell that as a rune is a little underwhelming. But I think it has a lot of like functional potential. And I think it's the type of thing that would turn into a regularly used item if a player had it. Because it really is a good way to set up a trap to give you the jump on an enemy, as long as they're crafty and sneaky enough leading up to it. So I think this is a good one. I think it's good. I'm content with it. Yeah, I'm content with it. And we'll keep going with it, because now we get to do the real fun part. And we get to see what happens if our players. So like the where this project comes from is I've sort of created a homebrew rune system that I use in my games, and my players really like using. Where rather than giving them magical items, I give them runes that they can then use to build their own magical items to their personal preferred specifications. But part of that is that it's also a crafting thing that they have to do in their downtime. So it's not quite like Pathfinder, which is just like, hey, you found a rune. Great, now it goes on my sword. And they can just kind of keep doing that. So yes, indeed, Sid. We are working on our runes a little bit. And so I like to do that for the players. They have fun with it. And like I say, it's a crafting thing too. So it turns into something like they have to really work at it, and it kind of really helps make the items feel personal. You know, like something they really care about, and that they've really put a lot of work into. But naturally, if it's something that a player can make, it's something that a player can mess up, which is why we have the possibility of the item becoming sentient or becoming just a flat-out cursed item. And so I always like to kind of come up with some sample parameters that would be, you know, that would be placed on the item. All the homebrew was just playing Pathfinder at this point. I mean, you know, that's like, honestly, they kind of encourage that in 5e. They kind of state multiple times, they're like, hey, you know, these are the rules, but also change them and have fun with the game. So yeah, it's not entirely different from Pathfinder. I like I say, I do the runes a little differently than Pathfinder. And the other thing too that's good about doing 5e with homebrew is it's a lot easier to convince new players to play like on-brand Dungeons and Dragons than it is to get them to try Pathfinder, because Dungeons and Dragons makes itself kind of intentionally a bit more approachable to complete newbies to tabletops. Pathfinder is definitely a hard mode one, at least by most people's standards. It's, you know, but and that's not a dig. They're both awesome. I DM 5e and I'm playing in a Pathfinder group, and I love both of them equally. But yeah, I mean, you know, what's the point? Like, if you don't want to homebrew things, why play a tabletop at all? You know, just play a video game where the rules are unyielding. I mean, I guess you could kind of mod video games, but you know what I mean. Yeah, you understand what I'm saying. Let's see here. Okay, so if we have sentient items here, so the way I always do it, is if the item, like all of the, no matter what, it's kind of like what we were talking about with like playing a good or an evil, like a good or evil, player character, you know, in the party. The item will always try to help whoever's using it if it's a sentient item. If it's a cursed one, that's where it'll be like hurting people. So if it's a good, if it's got a good personality, like, you know, the personality is one thing, but I always like to have them have like slightly different effects, right? Just to kind of mix things up a bit. So if it's good, the idea is that it will do something specifically to help the user. If it's evil, it will do something specifically to harm the target. If it's lawful, it will be more powerful but more narrow in effect. And if it's chaotic, it will be less powerful but like broader scope in some way, shape, or form. And we use all of those descriptions very loosely. What kind of runes? So the runes that we're working on, the runes that we're working on it's a project that I've been doing where it's basically turning the entire series of spells in 5e into a potential rune item is what I do. So it's as much a creative process as it is a functional one. So we're now working on Glyph of Warding and turning that into a rune. Let's see here. Oh my, okay, already you're losing me a little bit here. Cakes and pies out of children. Okay, strong start. 3 boxes from moves. We thought it might be. Yeah, just wanted to aspire. Call it first floor. Player open a box. Touch child in there. That's I mean that's like some next level. That's some next level Sweeney Todd going on right there. Just like bold faced use children. That's some dark stuff. Dark stuff. Describe it as children. I mean, I know you guys are talking about Curse of Strahd. I don't remember it being explicitly children. But you know, it's a good motivator. It's a good motivator for setting out whoever the villain is. Let's see here. So if it's good, in some way, shape, or form, this thing can. We want it to be like helpful to the person using the item. Is sort of the idea here. Just relationship. Category of weapons called remnant weapons. Just so awesome. The souls were imprinted on the weapons. Like-minded people are slightly influenced builder. Well, that's a really cool idea too. That's a really cool idea too. My idea for the sentient weapons is they're basically just items that that have their own ideas and want to be friends with the person who uses them. A little less heroic in nature, and more so just like a strange thing that can happen is more so the way I do it. Have a drinking problem? Oh, well, you do now. Yeah, there you go. There you go. That's it. That's if it's if it's evil and tries to, it can come about in two ways. Either the item has a drinking problem and it influences them that way, or the item just drives them to drinking. Either one is possible. Let's see here. So if it's good, I want it to be able to do a little something extra for the sake of the players. And so like the idea like that I'll do here is very good at making the glyph subtle. What is it like? Anyone making a check to find the glyph does so at disadvantage. Right? I always like to, I don't know, I think it's fun to have it like have a little bit of extra effect too. Like I say, it just kind of spices it up too. Makes it fun, makes it a bit more unique and interesting. And like I've already stated, I'm a DM who loves chaos. So the more chaotic stuff that's going on, the better. Because chaotic doesn't necessarily mean, that's not just referring to, you know, the alignment chart. Just the more crap that's going on everywhere, the better it is. I love when things sort of devolve into insanity. That's just I take great joy in seeing players think like, okay, here's our very specific plan about how this is going to go down. You're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, and we're going to come out of this, and it's going to be just fine. And then things are slowly exploding around them and getting more and more out of hand. I live for that. And I relish it. So anything I can do to kind of like sow the seeds of that chaos. Spot on right there. If it's evil, I always like to, if it's evil, have it be. See, this is kind of a loose fit here, because it kind of in a way does something negative to the target, but since you basically leave the glyph and then like, you know, get out of there, there's not a whole lot to do that would benefit the user per se. So it's kind of like, this is more of a, like, it kind of helps the player or the user by just making it harder for them to be discovered per se, is kind of what I was thinking. And so if it's evil, it'll do something a bit more intense to the enemy. And what my thought is, here is, like, because my thought is we can try and do something and we can try and play with the different types of damage. And so my thought is, that it would be like, it can have like 2 effects or whatever, in some way, shape, or form. I'm trying to think about how it would balance though, because the type of damage it does is chosen upon imbuing the rune. Oh boy, you got a story for me. Okay. There came to command. The children behind me can get up around the third person. I get up on the outside. Face step. Eladrin. The other jumped out of the window, ran away. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah, you know what? As long as you're trying to do something, that's all that matters, right? Heroes are the ones who tried. Doesn't you can still be a hero if you come up short, as long as you're trying to do the right thing. Let's see here. Because like, I mean, one of the obvious things you could do, like, that's like extra bad for the target is doing more damage, but I don't want to do that necessarily, especially because that's what the higher levels are. What I'm actually thinking is that it would be oh, here we go. Here's an idea. Let's see. The item is particularly conniving, and well, let's see. How do I want to word this? I'm thinking like, I'm thinking to give it like basically the thing can disregard the fact that like the triggers and stuff are chosen when you imbue it, right? So I guess what we can just say, can change what triggers the glyph, and will often offer suggestions to the user about sinister ways to do it. There we go. It's just like a lot of times with the evil items, just kind of try to make them an extra dick if I can. Just like make them a little extra dickish. There you go. That's right. Just tell yourselves that the box is empty. That's fine. It's Schrodinger's child in there. Oh boy. All right. If it's lawful, so again, the lawful is always, I like to have it be like a narrower but more potent effect, and chaotic is a wider, more like, not weaker effect, but just like like the impact is spread out over a wider area. And so my thought is, let's see here. So with the lawful, I'm thinking we'll do 10-foot radius sphere and does 2 additional d8 damage right within that sphere. And then if it's chaotic, it's a wider sphere, but it does reduce damage. Kind of what my thought is. Let's see here. So let's say keeps the damage closer to the intended target. Radius is only 10 feet, but does, we're just gonna do, but does an additional, let's do it. Well, yeah, let's just do it. Let's go ahead and do an additional 2d8 damage. And then chaotic, the explosion is larger than normal. Radius is 30 feet, but does 2d8 less damage. Boom. So it's like it's almost like it's taking the same exact explosive power and either compacting it or spreading it out. And there we go. That's simple enough. I mean, the thing about all of these too is they may need rebalancing at any point in time. It's a homebrew system that I use for my good buddies that I play a game. We're fine with adjusting things on the fly. We play it with, I'm not trying to create a system that would fly in Adventure League or anything like that, because homebrew would never fly in Adventure League. So yeah, no. That's just it, and I think that's fine. At least balance things we've come up with. Heavy crossbow, auto reloads, 12 plus 2 piercing. There's an extra bullet per shot for an additional 1d6 damage. 4 charges per day for lightning bolt DC 17. That is a powerful item. I mean, like, if you're talking about items that have the spirits of a god in them, though, like, hell yeah, make it overpowered. Screw it. Go for it. It's like, that's great. That's great. Like, why not? Like, if the DM is worried about, there being too much power there, then just throw an extra Tarrasque at him or something. I don't know. Like, I never worry too much about players or items being overpowered, because if I'm the one being the DM, then I can just make things harder. So that way they can enjoy their fun, super awesome god-killing weapons as a way to kill an even more powerful monster. It's like, yeah, you're not fighting a werewolf. You're fighting a super werewolf. It's twice the size, has twice the health, and has 2 rounds per turn, or two turns per round. It's like, just make the game fun and let them feel like badasses. I don't know. Although that, like, again, I kind of go out of my way to only play with my friends. I don't like finding random groups. So, like, random groups might be a bit more bothered by that, because you have so many other people and they might want something that's a bit more tightly regulated and stuff. And that's great. That's totally fine. If that's the case, then yeah, my game would be, like, horribly unfun for them. But I play with my friends, and my friends like this system, so I give them all the power in the world and then just let them face bigger monsters, and it's fun for everyone. Oh, you don't gotta apologize. Don't apologize at all. Don't apologize at all. You're sitting here chatting, getting into D&D. That's what I want. I want people getting into it, sharing stories and stuff like that. It's great. Okay, let's see here. If this item is cursed. So the way I do cursed items is I give them an extra powerful benefit, but then there's also a drawback to them. And my goal is always to try and see if I can't find the balance so that players are willing to risk whatever the damage is, whatever the drawback is, for the sake of the extra benefit, so that one day they might fly a little too close to the sun and find themselves in big old trouble. So I think what I want to do is, for the extra powerful benefit, what I think I want to do is, can place any glyph of any type when used. So it's like, it's not beholden to you have to do just the one that's right there. My thought is, with the problematic side effect here, I've got two thoughts. One of them is that you can only place one at a time, and until that thing is triggered, it will stay there. Like it'll like you can't use it again, and that thing will just like it'll wait and it'll be like I can only cast one per turn. And the other thing that I'm thinking that I'm kind of debating is if there's a way for like as the thing is like it draws energy from you to keep that one, you know, or to be able to have this power. So it's like doing so would somehow draw, like placing the thing would somehow draw energy or do damage to the player. Because you can almost do something like when it's triggered, the player will then take half damage or something like that. Like it's drawing whatever energy it needs from the user to do the thing. And so, because my thought is then it could just be like a random, like they're just like walking along. If it never gets triggered, they're just walking along, and then all of a sudden it just get hit, you know, with like 17 damage, and they're like, what on earth just happened? And everyone's panicking, and they forgot about the item that they put down, is kind of my thought. But I got supporting spells. Bless is like one of the best things you could give to your players. Never ever underestimate Bless. Keep Bless for damn sure. Giving everyone that additional D4 is phenomenal, right? When you're, especially early on, when you're talking about enemies that have armor classes under 15, like you're gonna get players that will so many times come up 1 or 2 short, and that extra D4 will make a difference, right? Because they're like, if it's a DC 11, like the players in the first place have like a 50-50 shot of hitting it, probably even better based on what their attack bonuses are. If you add that D4, like if you have someone who does a +3 on their attack, like you're guaranteeing that's a +4. And if something has an AC of 11, that means they only need to roll, what is that, a 7 or higher, right? Rather than an 8 or higher, right? So you increase their odds by 5%, at least. Actually, mathematically, it's a little more. It's more like 10% by adding that D4, because the average of the D4 will be like a, you know, like it will be more than that, and so it averages to being a better percentage. So always use Bless. Always use Bless. Start every turn, every combat, start it with Bless. Bless everyone. Like, be Oprah about it. You get a blessing, and you get a blessing, and everybody gets a blessing. Like, use the blessings. Always use the blessings. Other things, what math have for guidance? Yeah. Guidance is a good one. And really anything that you can do that will give some sort of additional something to players is going to be great. Like if you can do something that will give them like bonuses to saving throws or attack rolls, things like that. Anything that you can do that will give them a bonus is going to be amazing for them, because it's suddenly going to make it much easier for them to do the things that they want to do, right? And that's what we were talking about, being an awesome support character. And that's like, so that one guy that I was telling you about who's become one of the best support characters ever, every combat, the first thing he does, he's like, okay, I'm going to cast Bless on everyone. Like he immediately casts Bless on everyone. And I'm not kidding you when I say 3 or 4 times per combat, like for any time there's a combat, there's like 3 or 4 times something goes from a miss to a hit. And like that can end combat an entire round earlier, depending on what is happening in that combat. And that can be a real lifesaver for a lot of people, especially if you're going against like a glass cannon that, if you don't kill it fast, can do a whole lot of damage, right? Like if you're playing Banshees as they are, that can just like them, or like a Basilisk that can really just like in one turn take a player out. Like if you have that ability to make sure that things end a round earlier, it's going to pay huge dividends. So like that's going to be your best bet, is to be able to do something. Like if you can do stuff that either takes away from the rolls of enemies or adds to the rolls of your players, that's going to be one of the best things that you can do in any scenario, because it's always going to tip the odds in your favor. So like that's the stuff. That's the stuff. Oh yeah, Lucky absolutely gets rid of disadvantage. 100%. That's like one of the best parts about Lucky. It absolutely does. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. But it relies on people remembering to use their lucky feet, which use their lucky feet, which if you're not a dancer, it's easy to forget that you have lucky feet. Ah, boy. Ah, I cracked myself up. Let's see here. Okay, problematic side effect. Only one glyph can exist at a time. I'm gonna do that. Only one glyph can exist at a time. Yeah, I kind of love the idea. One glyph can exist at a time. And the other thing that I kind of want to do is, I kind of want to do this, for each, for every, hold on, I'm trying to figure out how to word this so it makes sense here. But my thought is, like, every day that the thing exists, there's a more likely, like, there's a greater chance that it will just, like, blow itself up. And my thought is, like, every day you roll a d20. On the first day, if you get a natural 1, it explodes spontaneously. On the second day, if you get a 1 or a 2. Third day, up to 3. Fourth day, up to 4, right? And so I'm trying to figure out the most elegant way to word that. Because I like the idea of the only one can exist at a time, but it can only exist for up to 20 days, and then it's going to spontaneously combust, right? And I love the idea that that it could just, like, randomly explode when they don't want it to. For every day that the same glyph exists, there is a chance that it will explode spontaneously. Spontaneously, apparently. Apparently, I don't know how to spell spontaneously. I was just using the soft C. Soft C. So it's like spontaneously. Guidance, bless, cure wounds, healing word, guiding bolt, inflict wounds, sanctuary, absorb elements, berry fire, good berry, healing spirit, lesser restoration. I just want to know if these are really good. Those are all excellent. Those are all excellent. Lesser restoration doesn't get used a lot, but when it's needed, it's really helpful to have. Pass without a trace is amazing if your players want to try and sneak into something. Pass without a trace is, like, it's just ridiculous. Getting a +10, it's amazing. It's absolutely incredible. Good berry is actually, I would say, one of the weaker ones of all those. But, like, you know, it depends on what you do. Like, if you want a healing option, I usually lean more towards healing word. It's a little less flexible, but it's got more oomph to it. And that's just me. I guess sanctuary is usually less used. Same with absorb elements. Fairy fire, people don't use it very often, but I've always felt it's very good. Inflict wounds is definitely awesome if you just want to be able to do a little bit of hitting yourself. But yeah, cure wounds, healing word, those are both excellent. Guidance bless, awesome. Guiding bolt is good. Inflict wounds, like we just talked about, is good. Yeah. I guess that's my take on all of those. I think those are all good spells. Yeah. If you're a cleric walking around in heavy armor, good lord, yes, definitely get that. Get that pass without a trace. My goodness, absolutely. Let's see. So for every day that the same glyph exists, the chance that it will explode spontaneously. That chance is 5%. How do I want to say that? I guess what I want to say is, for each day, roll 1d20. The DC is equal to the number of days it's been around. So, on day 1, the DC is 1. On day 2, the DC is 2. I mean, I think it's pretty clear, but the more clear you can make it, the better. etc. There we go. I kind of like that. What it takes to remove. Must be removed by magic. If the owner tries to abandon the item, it will it will stamp, well, not stamp, it will place the glyph on the user. There we go. And so on. Yeah, and so on is a good one. And so on. That's a really good one. I like that. There's a lot of good ways. There's a lot of good ways. Yeah, I'm personally partial to etc. because it makes me sound real bougie when I say it. I make myself sound really bougie when I say it, let's be real. The word has nothing to do with it. It's 100% just me being a ding dong that makes it that makes it sound goofy. Match, I mean, I would have to look at the list. I can't think of them off the top of my head. Like I say, stick with the principle that if you are adding to the roles of your party members or taking away from the roles of enemies, you're going to be doing something really helpful in many scenarios. Like that's the best way that I can describe it when it comes to being support, is just somehow increase the roles of your players or decrease the roles of your enemies. Whether it's giving advantage so that they get more roles, whether it's adding to the bonus, you know, whatever it is, whether it's adding the 1d4 like Bless does, that's the best way to do it without like, you know, because I don't necessarily want to go through and just like give a synopsis on every single spell, because there's going to be so many scenarios that's kind of impossible to do. Just understand that the general principle is if it makes your team stronger or if it makes the enemies weaker, that's great. You know, that's good supporting. If it does damage, that's helpful, but that's not really the same as being a support character. So that's what I would focus on. That's what I would focus on if I were you. So yeah, you know, I think that's good for a Glyph of Warding. And I think we've certainly spent plenty of time on this one. And like, man, with all these awesome discussions and stuff, we definitely got the creative juices flowing. So I'm gonna bring us over, and I'm gonna have us start working. I'm gonna have us start working a little bit on the campaign project that we've been working on here. I'm gonna switch gears and try and get some progress done on that stuff. Because we have been. Oops, no, I did not mean to switch those tabs. Don't you dare switch my rainbow tabs. One note, more like wrong note. Am I right? Got him. All right, we're gonna go to the Atlas here. Been working on a campaign. For those unfamiliar, I've been working on a campaign project that I'm basically writing a campaign that will take players from levels 1 to level 10. Unseen Servant is fun. Unseen Servant doesn't get the use and credit it deserves. I think Unseen Servant is awesome. It's also good for pranking. I love me a good Unseen Servant prank. It's like an unseen prank. It's great. Good stuff. But yeah, we've been working on a campaign project, and we're past the. I mean, like, so in terms of players and like timeline and playing through it, we're past what would be the halfway point for them. But in terms of, excuse me, in terms of writing, we're probably not quite to halfway, just because like the further you get in it, the more complex things get because players are higher level and they're getting into the thick of all of the story and everything. So we've still got plenty of work to do. It's supposed to take players from level 1 up to level 10, and we're at the stage right now where the players are all at around level 6. Is sort of the stage in this campaign project that we've been working on. So, let's see here. That's right. We kind of figured out what. Well, here, why don't I do this? Because I know we got some people who aren't always around when I'm doing the campaign. Let me just kind of give a real quick rough and dirty dive into sort of what this campaign is. We got to open up a couple of maps. I got a couple of maps open here. We'll start by opening different. That's the campaign that I'm running with my player. Now that's a different one than what we need. Let's go ahead and get, yeah, we can start with that map. Definitely need that one open. We also are going to need an Adala open, and we also want our world map open. Those are going to be helpful. A short campaign. Warlock used it during combat. Remove bolts, arrows out of the range. Ban its quivers. Just turn into a slaughter after that. Yeah, that sounds about right. But that's like that's why I say it's like underrated. Like, what a great use of it. And it's just like you basically just get like a free steal of all the stuff on the guy. That's excellent use right there. That's fantastic. So the campaign I'm working is entirely homebrew. Takes place in my homebrew world. The world's called Zeoria. This is it. This is the world. And the gist of this world is that it takes place. It's like a post-apocalyptic type of world. The way I describe it, imagine that all of the realms of existence are like layers of different like density liquid, right? You ever see those things that like science teachers will have where it's like different densities of liquids will kind of form those layers and they kind of make their separate, like oil on water type of situation, right? Imagine that all of the realms of existence are like that, where they're all kind of like in the same like thing, but they all kind of separate themselves based on, you know, what plane it is and all that kind of stuff. So you've got your like elemental planes, your ethereal planes, mortal planes, all that kind of stuff, right? The apocalyptic event in this world that's called the unhinging is like if someone were to have taken that jar of said separated liquids and shook it all up, so that all the different like realms and everything kind of got intermingled and stuff. You got all kinds of rips and tears in reality, all kinds of crazy stuff, and that opened up the world to have all kinds of crazy, horrible monstrosities appearing in the world out of nowhere. All kinds of just like the tears in reality caused all kinds of magical radiation and everything to just cause all kinds of chaotic changes and everything in this world. And most of the world became uninhabitable because of this, just because of the level of danger. So basically everyone in the world either died or retreated to one of the handful of cities that you can kind of see dotted around here. There were a handful of cities that were able to be fortified because they were large enough, had the manpower enough, and had the general structure and fortification enough to fend off the dangers of what was now called the wilds. So it's that's the world that we operate in here. And the campaign that we're writing is taking place in this particular hex right here, which I will now go ahead and pull that up. We need this one right here. So this is the hex that we're working on. And to choose between Mage Hand, Message, and Illusion. And there's nothing comparable. I would personally choose Mage Hand or Message. But that's just me and what I like to do. Just depends on what you want your character to be able to do. I think they're all useful. And they're all perfectly useful. It just kind of depends on what you consider most important. You know, Message is good for communication if the party likes to split up a lot. Mage Hand is good if you want to have someone who can like go sample open doors or whatever, or grab things that are far away without like risking your own hand if you're worried something's trapped. Mind Illusion is really good for distracting people. Depends on what you want to do with your character. I think Identify can be pretty handy if you guys are finding a lot of items and like then the storyline and the campaign that you're doing is really focused on finding clues and stuff like that. That can be a really useful one too. Absolutely. So yeah, so this is the hex that this campaign is taking place in. And the basic storyline, actually, I'm gonna go ahead and bring us back up here real quick. So the basic storyline is like, so it's been a couple thousand years since the unhinging happened, and so like the layers, just like they got shook up, you know, beforehand they were separate layers. The layers of existence are starting to kind of repercolate. So the wilds are slowly becoming a bit more safe to explore in. And so because of that, a lot of people are starting to think about trying to reclaim a lot of it so that they can sort of spread out again. And so one of those efforts is they're trying to build a road from the city up here of Phosphik down to the city of Moffafetting so they can get better trade route stuff going on there. So that's it. Oh my gosh, you guys are blowing everything up. Hold on, I'm falling behind. A carving, kind of want to items. Yeah, objects could be really useful. Yeah. Locate objects could be really useful. Like you're trying to compare like chocolate cake and chocolate ice cream. They're both really awesome. It just depends on what you want to be able to do. Like I think you can't go wrong with a lot of the things you're talking about. It just depends on what you want to do for it. And hello, Gabby. Good to see you. Good to see you here. I'm doing well, thank you. Oh, nice. Finished an elf for every project. That's awesome. That's awesome. Good job. Good job. It feels good to finish a project, doesn't it? Always feels really good. But yeah, so that's kind of what the campaign is like, or what the premise of the campaign. There's trying to build a new trade route, right? Because there's the only existing trade routes are these dotted lines, and they're very limited. And obviously, for growing cities, they want to be able to expand those trade routes a bit. They're trying to build one that goes directly south. And our players are basically going to be, they start off as being members of that initiative. What happens is, to sort of kick things off, they're here, and it turns out that they're traveling through what has over time become the domain of a dragon. And the dragon's not really interested in people building a road through his territory. So he shows up, says, "Oi, stop building a road in my territory." And of course, the people are going to be like, "But dude, we're trying to get some trade stuff going on here. We need to be able to do this." So the dragon's going to be like, all right. If that's, the dragon's like, okay, I'll cut you a deal. There's there's this place called the Hall of Wisdom that I really want to be able to get into. There's some cool stuff in there that I want. If you can, but it's locked up with like these magic keys and stuff. If you can get those keys for me, then I will help you. I will help you out by, or rather, I will let you build your pathway. Right? That's the trade. And naturally, our players, being good, fun players that are willing to accept the call to action, will say like, "Great, we're going on a key hunt," and that's the campaign. They're basically just on a key hunt. The idea is that they will, over time, learn different clues and everything, and eventually, and we're kind of starting to get into the thick of this stuff, that will either there's all kinds of challenges, there's all kinds of like side quests and adventures that they kind of get on as they're going, and then the other idea is that at the end of it, like, they're going to learn a little bit about what's in this Hall of Wisdom here. And then it can be, if the players want to, they can either, like, uphold the deal, or they can betray the dragon and try and keep the item for themselves. And that's going to kind of influence what the final boss is. Is the final boss going to be, like, a monster that they... Because what there's going to be is there's going to be some sort of monster that's also living in the Hall of Wisdom that's kind of made it its home. And so the final boss is either they fight the monster maybe with the help of a dragon or something like that, in which case the monster would be like a super buff version of it, or they get to the end there and they decide they want to betray the dragon. And if the players take that route, it's basically just like the DM can throw an audible, right? They can either be like, okay, they're friendly with the dragon, they want to help it, they have to fight the monster that's inside it, or they're like, oh, they're going against the dragon, okay, we'll just nix the monster that's inside it and they can fight the dragon. And so it's really up to the players what they want to do, right? That's kind of the idea behind it. And so that's what they're doing. Thank you, Amix. I'd like to think that it would be fun for players. It's at least designed in the same way that I designed the campaign that my players are running right now. Very different storyline, but it's designed and functionally similar. My players seem to like it, so I'm kind of like, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We'll just kind of keep writing the way I write. People seem to be okay with it. So that's the basic premise. So basically what they did, they went up back to this town here, started doing some research, found some clues that suggested the first key is going to be up in the mountaintops among some of the giants that live up there. So they go up there, deal with some giants, as one does, and get the first key. Then they go back, and then they find out the second key is likely hidden in the abandoned dwarven city of Kagdural down there. They go down. Naturally, it's not actually abandoned. There's all kinds of Duergar, these horrible, twisted, awful, mean, nasty, like once dwarves and now Duergar, and they have to deal with that, and then they eventually find the second key, and then they go home. The third key, that's where we're kind of catching up to what we're writing right now. The third key is supposedly hidden in this abandoned elven village of Ashran Nalor. Now, obviously, they've got some travel to do there, so they kind of have a few options. They can either try to travel up through the mountains. And here's where, like, I'm writing something, but fully understanding that with a sandbox style, the players may never experience this at all if they don't want to. The options are basically go through the mountains to get there, in which case they can kind of revisit the giant stuff, or there's down in this city up here, or this abandoned city of Minadala, there were historically teleportation circles, one of which would lead to this city here. And so the idea is that we're going to nudge the players towards, like, hey, you go down here, you can get the teleportation circle and go in there and teleport your way. But it's really up to the players. I mean, we've got the stuff that if they wanted to go through the mountaintops, we could just do a nice prolonged travel through the mountaintops if they want to. But it's going to be more fun if they go down there. So we just kind of gently nudge them a little bit. And like I say, if your players are good players, they'll accept the call to adventure. Which I'm not. I personally, now some people might balk at like, the concept of railroading. Which is why, and I don't want to railroad my players per se, which is why it's like, hey, if they just don't want to do that, if they would just rather travel through the mountains, they can do that. The flip side of it is, I always think it's funny when players like are really determined to not necessarily be told where to go. Because after a certain point, it's kind of like, we are playing a game, right? So you kind of do have to intentionally go towards the conflict here. I don't know. There's a lot of nuance to it, but it's always funny to me. Like, I've had players before that I'll be like, oh yeah, and then you heard about this rumor about there being a lot of treasure in that cave over there. And my players are kind of like, nah, we don't want to do that. That sounds really dangerous. It sounds like we could die. We don't want to do that. It's like, well, yeah, you could. You're playing a game. Like, I was telling you that's where okay, all right, you guys miss out on the super awesome treasure. So, at any rate, rant over. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. It's kind of unrelated. Point is, gotta nudge our players to come over here to get in the teleportation to circle to eventually head to Ashra Nalor. When they get to Ashra Nalor, we're going to make this one like a very horror film inspired situation where like it's gonna start off where they think that it's just an abandoned city, but what it is like the elves that didn't escape have become corrupted and turned into like this really twisted version of Drow that like, do all kinds of sacrifices and stuff like that, as an evil cult does. But what it is they operate entirely in the shadows. So the players will show up in the city thinking it's completely empty, and then things will slowly begin devolving into more and more horrific things of them like slowly being trapped, kind of Blair Witch style, right? Like the original Blair Witch movie is kind of the idea I have behind a lot of it. So they're eventually going to get there, but right now we're writing this Minadala, which is a much more lighthearted chapter, where they're basically just in the city that's been overtaken by savanna animals. So like at one point they're walking through the city and they have to deal with a bunch of elephants that are standing around. At one point they'll go through and there's a herd of rhinos. Right? There's like a herd of wild horses that are in a house that they need to loot some stuff from. So it's a much more lighthearted thing to sort of give them a breather before throwing them into some real dark stuff. So that's kind of what we're working on. That's where we're at with our campaign. And that's this part that we're writing. I can show you guys as well. Where is it? There we go. This is the zoomed in sort of map of the city here. And then we have what we've been working on here. I'll open up. We have a handful of different like mini dungeons for our players to explore and go through in here. And this is the one we're working on here, which is a half collapsed mansion of sorts. Is sort of what we're working on right now. Half collapsed mansion that is now overrun with wild horses, which used to be the horses. They're the descendants of the horses that were kept by this family who were like prized racing horse breeders, is sort of what we've come up with. It's not really related to anything. It's just like fun little bits of lore for the players to learn about and enjoy. Are there other good utility feats or feats for supporting character? Yes, but knowing them off the top of my head is not as guaranteed. There are definitely a lot of good supporting feats, but you'd have to go through and read them. Because as a DM, I don't actually spend a whole lot of time with feats and stuff like that, but I know they exist, and they can, and a lot of it also is, again, as always, going to depend on it's going to depend on what you are wanting to specifically do as a player. But yeah, look through them. There are some really good ones. Oops, maybe I'm not going to get a call. Thought I was going to get a work call for a second there, but then it just disappeared. I wonder if it's something about the warranty of my car. I get a handful of those where it's like my phone will ring for half a ring. And they always come through on my work phone too, not my personal phone, which is weird. But on my work phone, it'll buzz for a half second, it'll disappear, and then I'll have a voicemail for some reason. where it's like it immediately went to voicemail, and the robocall just left a voicemail rather than waiting for me to pick up. I don't know if it's a new I don't know if it's a new type of scam or something like that, but it's really weird. Vicious charges have been made on your credit card. That one, and the other one that I get a lot is about refinancing my student loans. Like, those are the ones I get all the time. It used to be, I remember the days, I used to get one where it was like, it would sit there silent for a minute, and then you would hear this really loud, like, boat horn, and then you would have, yep, there, it just left a voicemail. It just left a voicemail. I guarantee it. Hold on. I want to check this out right now. I want to do this. I want to see what this is. I want to see. I want to know, dang it. Hold on. Yeah, it's not from anywhere that I would be getting a work call from, but let me check here. Guys, it's Jenny from the National Student Loan Center. Oh, my student loan is flagged for full discharge. They want me to call their office today. It's an 800 number. What do you think? Do you think I should trust it? Do you think it's trustable? I don't know. It's real tempting. I could have my student loans discharged. I don't know what that means. It sounds like a scam word they would use, because notice that they pointedly did not use the word forgiven or paid off. Discharged. I mean, that's fair. Yeah, the voicemails I kind of figure are pretty innocuous. It's already there on my phone. It's whatever. But yeah, it's funny. Discharged. Like, I'm trying to figure out what the scam there is. You know, like, it's clearly a scam, because, like, if they were genuinely trying to help, they would at least, like, offer up some sort of, like, refinancing or something like that. But, like, just flat out saying that they would be discharged. That sounds to me like they would be, like, given away or something like that. I don't know. It's funny. Scams are, like, the thing that frustrates me about scams is, like, the reason they keep showing up is because they do work. Like, you really want to believe that people are smart enough to not trust that kind of stuff, but they do. They work. If they didn't work, people wouldn't keep doing it. Like, if they didn't work, people would, like, their scams would go away. But they obviously work, and so people keep, yeah. Scam 74 reports collection agency rate of auto calling. Yeah. That's what they all are gonna be. That's what they all are. And like the thing is too, is they want you to know. Like, that's the thing that's frustrating about it to me, is they want it to be clear that it's a scam, because they don't want to try and fool smart people. They want it to be obvious, so only the most susceptible and oblivious people are the ones that respond, right? That's why scam emails always have such garbage grammar and spelling and everything like that, because they don't want someone who's capable of figuring out what that is to be the one that responds. They want to prey on someone who, for one reason or another, isn't able to understand that it's a scam. And so they want those people to be the ones who respond so that they can take advantage of them. And it's so twisted. It's so twisted and messed up, and I hate it because, like I say, it works. So, yeah, I don't know. I always think it's goofy. I think it's so goofy, like, because the patterns are so noticeable. Anyway, no, Jenny, I will not be calling you about discharging my loans. Thank you. I don't even know how you would know what my loans are, because none of them are attached to anything with this work-related phone, which tells me it's a BS scam call that knows nothing about who I am. I mean, that's probably, I mean, I don't know, because my number, it's a work-issued phone, so my number is not under my name or anything like that. So it's just got to be a generic one. I mean, it's a safe one to make. they didn't talk anything about my specific loans. And they never said my name. They just said your student loans. So they're just like probably spamming them out there, recognizing that most working adults nowadays have student loans. So, or at least in America, they do. America, land of the debt. Land of the debt, home of the indebted. It hurts because it's true. Save us. All right, so we're working on anyway. Actually, you know what? I need to run the bathroom again. I'm gonna do that before we start getting some momentum going here, because once we get going, I want to be able to keep going with some of the stuff we're writing. So I'm going to run to the bathroom real quickly. I'll be back again. It's gonna take me like 30 seconds, a minute tops, and then I'll be right back. And if you ever want me to take even less time on bathroom breaks, like I say, just pay me a whole lot. We'll move over to OnlyFans and we'll just do it right on screen, baby. But I need a lot of money to do that one, so cough up. I'm just kidding. I don't know if I would ever actually do that on screen. That's a little far for me. We've all got limits, but we've all got a selling point, so, I'm going to go to the bathroom in private, and I'll be right back. Thanks for your patience. Much better. All right. Let's see here. So yeah, so we are working on finishing up this manor. So this mansion. So basically, what's happening in the city and what our players need to do, right? So they're trying to find this teleportation circle. When they show up, what they find is that the city's a ghost town. It's known that it's a ghost town, except for one person who's still alive, who's this wizard. And this wizard has this kind of tragic backstory of he was just a citizen of the town. And when the unhinging happened, he said he would stay around town, try to protect and keep things safe from whatever was going on in the world with the unhinging, so that everyone else could leave, go elsewhere. They basically went north to find safety. And then they would be back in a couple weeks once everything calmed down, because no one knew that the unhinging was going to be a world-changing thing. Like, they, especially in this city, just thought there were some dangerous monsters out of nowhere, and that they just needed to figure out where they were coming from, and then it would all be fine. No one really realized. So the wizard was like, "Okay, you guys go. I'll stay here and take care of this." The wizard starts doing that. Months go by, a couple years go by. Things aren't getting better. He suddenly realizes this is a bad situation, starts delving into some really complex, dark, deep magics to keep himself alive, because he feels this sense of responsibility to keep doing what he promised he would do, even though he's getting older and things are still really dangerous. Kind of does all that kind of stuff, and a couple thousand years pass, and he's still there. He's kind of lost his mind. And at some point along the line there, he destroyed all the teleportation circles. And like, his reason for doing it back then was because he was worried about dangerous things using them to teleport to him and make his job more difficult, so he destroyed them. but he doesn't really remember that anymore. All he remembers is like, oh yeah, no, there's a teleportation circle. I can make that for you, so you can head over to Asher Delore. But I need some supplies. So the players, after getting there and meeting him, he's going to basically send them on a series of fetch quests where they have to go to different parts of the city to find different bits of supplies for him. You know, why couldn't he just do it himself? Well, because he's crazy and our players needed adventure. So there we go. That's our reasoning. So yeah, they will be going about trying to find all these things to help eventually make the teleportation circle that'll lead them there. This particular part of it, they need to find a particularly large and valuable diamond or gem of some sort, which is like, you know, valuable gems are really important for a lot of different magics and stuff like that. I just so it's clear, I don't have a specific spell or anything that they're trying to do. It's just kind of a loose concept of like, oh yeah, this is a really powerful wizard who can do this one thing that you guys can't do, and he will do it for you. And so we're just kind of giving them stuff to do. It's one of those things where, again, it's like, you know, you can sit here and be super intense about it all, or you can accept the call to adventure. So, you know, that's what we're working on. And like I say, in this area, they went to this mansion because you know, the wizard will have said he'll mention, like, he's basically going to mention, you know, drop hints about where they can look for these things. They'll be like, oh, I need a really big valuable gem, not something you can find in a store. There's some really wealthy people around that probably left a bunch of jewels and stuff behind. I know I've seen a few of them. Go see if you can drum one up from like one of the mansions or something. And so they're going to go to a mansion that will eventually have one. But this mansion was once the home of a large of a family that had a long history, a long familial history of being very highly regarded horse breeders. And so when the families left, they left the horses behind, hoping that the wizard would be able to keep them safe and everything like that, because they couldn't take all their horses. That wasn't part of the agreement for them escaping north to the other city that was going to accept all the refugees. It was like, no, you can't just willy-nilly bring a whole bunch of extra animals and stuff like that, no livestock and stuff like that. So they just kind of hoped for the best, and well, they never came back, and the horses were still there, and the horses have kind of, you know, continued to breed. They become a bit more wild and feral, as well as influenced by all the different like magic radiation and the dangers of the world that they now live in. So there's now this big large herd of horses that are kind of violent, kind of big, and kind of dangerous, and they're wandering around in this half collapsed building. So that's what we're kind of doing in this area here. That's like what we're working on here, and we've sort of predetermined. So we've got the map already we got like the rough version of the map kind of mapped out. The map is mapped out. Yeah, that's a redundant statement. I did it. So we've kind of got the layout planned and everything, right? Like we can see, link one that we can see here. We've got the layout plans to a little 10-room dungeon here. This part of it. All of the parts that I do are pretty much, I stick to about a 10-room dungeon template, and that's just my preferred way of writing. That's, you know, that always gives me the wiggle room that I like to have to put in the amount of challenge and the amount of battles and the amount of treasure and stuff that I like to have in dungeons. And it keeps my players pretty happy. It's a good size. It can make any given dungeon, depending on their approach. It's small enough that they can just like beeline and speed their way through a lot of things and like real quick in a single session if they want to, but there's enough stuff that if they want to take their time to search and investigate and learn a bit about the world and all that kind of stuff, that it can, you know, you can have just one of these 10-room things stretch out a few sessions. It all just kind of, it's a good size, I find, at least the way I run games. It's a good size to let players, you know, have as much of a deep exploration as they want to have. So it works for me and my group, you know, and why fix what ain't broken. So we've got that, and then what I always like to do is, you know, sometimes I'll have specific ideas in mind, So I'll need to fix. I want to bring these over here. I always forget to do that, and then I like get confused about where things are. It has to be in the right order, dang it. So yeah, so if there are specific things that need to be in specific parts of the map, I'll pre-plan them out. But a lot of times I like to sort of randomly decide, just using dice rolls, what dangers and rewards are going to be in each room. And so we've kind of already determined what kind of danger and stuff is going to be in each room. And so now we just got to get the details of all that written out. So we've got like half of this all kind of written and planned out. You can see we've got rooms 1 through 6 written. And so now we got to get these last 4 rooms written up, and then we can finish like sort of decorating and filling out the details. But we're working on room 7 now. And this room is going to have an easy battle, so we're going to plop a few horses in there. Well, a few horses. There's a lot of horse-like monsters that I'm reskinning as horses. So that way we can have different challenge levels of horses, different types of horses, just to kind of keep things a little, you know, mishmash, rather than just be like, yep, there's 7 horses everywhere. Keep battling the same horses again and again and again. It's the same every time. You just got to do it a million times. Like, talk about farming, right? It's like farming boars in World of Warcraft or something. Which can be fun. Some people are into it, but I don't know. Like, I feel like I can do better than that as a writer, and so I try to. Carnivorous unicorns, good lord. I mean, what else is the horn for except for hunting? Am I right? Like, why would you have that thing if it's not for just, like, ramming it straight through the heart of your prey? I don't know. Not any kind of unicorn I'm interested in. That's why rhinos are basically just elephant unicorns. Unicorn elephants? Oh, which one's the modifier and which one's the baseline? All I know is rhinos have the right of it. If you've got a big horn on your face, stab something with it, damn it. Don't be all peaceful and all like, oh, I'm magical and angelic. So screw that. Kill the snot out of anything that bothers you. What I'd do if I had a big giant horn, big giant spear sticking out of my face. Someone's being a jerk to me, I'd be like, hey, buddy. Poke him right in the eye with it. Just, you know, it's like if he's trying to get in my face and I poke him in his eye and he just like loses an eye, hey, that's him for getting in my face. I only did it enough to like tickle the eyelashes there. Because I'm that good. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. Room 7. This is gonna... We're going to plop a few horses in there. And this room was kind of like a library, study, trophy room type area. This one is going to be, I want this to be like a music room, right? Because I'm trying to just imagine now, I'm not a rich person, so I don't really know how rich people live. But if books and movies about high society have taught me anything, it's that every rich person has a big giant joint room that's like some sort of combination of study / library / music room. So that's what we've got here. We've got this room that's like bisected by doors, but the doors could be opened up wide to have like library and study over here connected with the music room over here. This is going to be a music room. We're going to like make sure it has a nice big grand piano there, you know, maybe a cello or something like that. And we'll just put some horses there. Kind of like the idea of like one of the horses, like you walk in and one of the horses is magical enough that it's like sitting there, you know, playing ragtime on the piano. As you walk in, just like somehow magically with hooves. Just a horse in there. Beautiful. I'm selling it really well, aren't I? Alright, so easy battle. Format, so I always like to do easy battle, and I've already predetermined how much of a challenge the easy battle should be, because it's balanced. The whole campaign is balanced around assuming a party of 5 players. So that way, if your party's a little smaller, down to 4 players, then it's not too much of a challenge for them to handle. Or if the party's a little big, it's not like it's going to be boring, you know, if you have 6 players. Start getting to 7 or 8 players, or if you're under 4 players, then you're going to be balanced. But honestly, at that point in time, if the party is that big, you know, if it's big enough to have more than 6 players, you almost want to think about just doing 2 separate groups. And if you have fewer than 4 players, you want to try and at least have someone who can come in partially to fill it up, just because the party's going to be struggling to have all of the roles met, I find. So, but at any rate, 5 players all at level 6. So that's gonna, like, that's a different easy battle than 5 players at level 12 or 5 players at level 1. So I have this mathematical way of solving this or figuring this out that I like to use, and I've already done it. And so an easy battle in here is going to be worth 350 experience points. So we can like chuck a couple war horses. We could do like 2 war horses and 3 riding horses. That'd be a good balance. Let's do that. Let's do that. Why not? So 350 XP. Then just so I don't forget it, 2 of the one and then 3 of the other. Gonna be 2 of the hundos of the war horses here. Copy and paste because I'm lazy. Oh shoot, but I forgot the space. There it is. And then other ones, the riding horses. Copy that. Yeah, like I say, you can see that we're reskinning a few things to look like horses. These things all have like the basic types of attacks that I would look for in a homebrew horse. But then rather trying to start from scratch and keep things balanced, creating my own monsters, just like, it's a Lucrata, but we're just gonna say it's a big, giant, bad man, mean guy horse, and that's how I do it. See how much effort I put into this. I don't have time to create new stat blocks for everything too. Everyone's got to cut corners somewhere, and those are the corners that I cut. All right. So we've got kind of determined. We've decided what the challenge, the specific challenge of this area is going to be. The way I do this, you can kind of see how I've already set it up here. If it's black, it's stuff that can be read to the players. If it's red, it's stuff that is for DM only. And this is just my note-taking style, right? Like, there's not necessarily a convention here. This is just what makes sense to me. And the principle behind it, what I'll just sort of clarify, the principle behind it is having black having black words, like, you know, those words that I can read to the players, and having that be one color, you know, just black text on white background is the easiest. Having that there as like a pre-written narrative type thing that I can read to my players is really helpful when planning a campaign ahead of time, right? Like, I'm working on this big campaign and I'm not running it right now. I'm planning it way ahead of time. And it's really important if you're going to do that, which is, I do that. I love doing that. I've always been a world builder, so this is just something I do for my hobby. It doesn't matter that I don't have a game that I'm playing this one for. I just love creating the world and creating fun adventures for people to maybe one day explore. But if you're going to do it that way, you really want to make sure, what I do is I give detailed descriptions for a couple reasons. One, it'll remind me when I'm reading through it and preparing for a session what the hell is going on. And the other thing that's really helpful about it is, as a DM, there are some times when you sit down and start doing the DM thing and your brain is just not with it, right? Like, you've had a long day, you're a little tired, you're pretty hungry, but you're being the DM, so you can't snack as much as you wish you could, right? So you're struggling a little bit. If you have stuff pre-written out in like sentence and paragraph form like this, if you're having one of those nights, it stops you from resorting to, I don't know, it's a living room and there's bad guys, you guys fight them. Right? It stops you from doing that, which, like, I don't know, maybe most of you are better at avoiding that than I am, but I know there's nights when that's just kind of what my attitude is, because I've just had a long day. It helps prevent that, and instead gives me at least something that I can read to set the scene for players, right? So it helps make things a little better that way. And then in addition to that, by having things that are DM only in a different color, that way I always do things kind of like in order of how they happen. So it's like, okay, I see, okay, they're going into room 6, all right? Okay, there's a trap there. I mean, it's assumed that I'm not going to tell players, okay, enter trap. You know, instead, but I can be like, okay, all right, this stuff is in black text, I can just read this. Entering this room, you find yourself surrounded by a combination of study, trophy room of sorts. Your desks and chairs sit scattered around as bookshelves line the entirety of the walls, with the exception of a few areas where the shelves break to make space for glass display cases. And, you know, it's like, I read all that. And I'm reading, and then I see the red text. I'm like, oh, wait, don't read this out loud. I'll read this to myself. And then it's like, I've just described the room. Each case is trapped in some way, but with different solutions to open them successfully. It's like, okay, now I remember what's happening. And then black again. At the base of each case are 3 brass buttons, and that leads us into the trap. So it's like, by setting it up where I can just sort of like, in a single paragraph, jump between DM note and player note, it's very easy to take a lot of the thinking out of it. Right, because it's all just in chronological order that you're going to present it to players, with the stuff that I shouldn't say out loud to them in red. You know, so this is the system I use. You don't have to use my system. Obviously, everyone's going to have their own system, but I encourage you, if you're going to write campaigns, to have a system, because it is very annoying when you are reading your notes and you accidentally read aloud the stuff the players shouldn't know. And it's also really annoying when you're trying to create a good setting for your players, but your brain just is not working right during the session. That can be really frustrating. So if you just like have a system and do this type of stuff, you will thank yourself later so many times. Unless you're a DM who like only preps the week before a session or something like that. And like, that's not a dig. That some people do that and they do a phenomenal job at it. If that's what you do, then you probably are less in need of doing this type of stuff, because you'll just remember it because you worked on it only a couple days ago. Moral of the story is do what works for you. God, I end so many of my like tips that way. It's like, here's a tip, but also ignore it if you want. I don't know, just do what works for you. Like, thanks, that wasn't helpful at all, you idiot. Why'd you even open your mouth? And because I have an ego and I can't stop myself. Alright, easy battle. Walking into this room, you see what might have once been a collection of instruments that could fill the mansion with beautiful music. Unfortunately today, these instruments have been beaten down by time. We'll say wooden string instruments lie on the ground, warped and with strings long since snapped away. A piano sits in this room. It appears to be functional, though there is no possible way that it is still in tune. And we can just kind of do that. And then I'm going to just, again, in the DM note here, we'll say, just putting a little thing because players will likely ask. A lot of times, so just to preface this, a lot of times when players are entering a room and there's monsters, I give parameters for allowing them to sneak in without being noticed. In this mansion, I've largely been ignoring that and not doing that. And the reason why is because we can see this map is very wide open. We've got a wide opening there, wide opening to outside, wide opening to outside. Horses can, in theory, move here, 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 and in here without any hindrance, right? So they're very free moving. And because they're a herd working together, there's always going to be a couple of them on the lookout, in particular if they're in, these small, tight rooms like this. Like, there's always going to be a horse that notices. So I'm not doing it. Like, if players want to, I can always throw the audible and accept that. But as a baseline, I'm not doing that because this one, I want it to feel like they just can't sneak through this place. They either have to somehow befriend the horses and be nice to the horses, or they're going to have to fight a whole bunch of horses. That's just the way of it. That's the way it is. That's all she wrote. So so I'm doing that. So I'm going to say, so rather, what? In fact, what I'm just going to do is I'm going to not do a DM note. That we're going to do this. You perhaps feel the urge to sit down and play a new tune that's sweeping Zaoria, known as Chopsticks. And for anyone who wasn't subjected to piano lessons as a kid, or who is unaware for any other reason, Chopsticks, the intro to it is widely used as a joke because the intro is very, very simple. You only need 2 fingers. And just like right, and so it's like, I don't know. It's funny to me. Maybe I'm the only one who thinks it's funny, but yeah, but I get to enjoy humor in my games too, and so that's why I write it in there. Perhaps feel the urge to sit down and play a new tune that's sweeping Zaoria, known as Chopsticks. But that seems like it will be difficult, seeing as there is a small herd of horses standing in this room, all looking at you, as though very displeased to have company. Boom. And then cue the music. Yeah. And then they do the battle. And it's great. We don't even need to do any sort of DM notes in that part because it's just you walk in, you have to deal with the horses. Those steel drums played Sandstorm. Nice. Nice. That's classic. That's awesome. I like that. I always like to imagine what the D&D or medieval version of modern songs would be. I always like to just sort of think about that. Like, what would it be like if, you know, they were playing Gangnam Style in a medieval tavern? You know, would people know the dance? Would they have come up with the dance? Who knows? Who knows? All right, yeah, definitely go get yourself rested up for work. No problem at all. Thank you for stopping by. I'm glad you had a good time. Glad you was here, my man, or woman. I guess I don't know much about you. My super awesome person. You. I think I just made it more awkward by trying to avoid making it awkward. Isn't that funny how that always happens? Moral of the story is, don't care about anyone and just brashly say whatever you want. Don't do that. That's a fake moral. I don't mean that. Alright. So the reward in this one is just, we're just gonna get a monetary reward. Some rooms just straight up have treasure. We'll just say, I don't know, good lord. Why would there be money in a music room? Oh my goodness gracious, man, I might need some sleep. Good lord. I'm gonna need something. I'm probably gonna have to have a little snack before kickboxing today. If I'm going to the kickboxing gym and I'm gonna be teaching people, I need more energy than I got right now, I'll tell you that much. Like, I'm doing good just like sitting still, but now I gotta get up and like teach people how to kick things. Oh gosh, it sounds like a lot of energy expenditure that I'm just not interested in right now. I had my fight and I have 100% embraced my new current post-fight attitude of, I already did my hard work. I'm just going to be lazy and eat what I want and sleep when I want and just not worry about a damn thing anymore. I fully embraced that mindset. Oh, lordy. Anywho. Money. Why would there be money in a music room? That's the $1 million question, and that's what the dice decreed we have to figure out here. So I guess we're gonna keep doing it and figuring it out. Figure it out. We'll get there. I don't know. Peanut gallery. Anyone have ideas? Why would there be money in a music room? Are they saving up for an instrument or something? I don't know. Maybe there's a jar of coins or something that's just like sitting there, and like in crayon on it is written like for violin. I don't know. This is a really wealthy family. That doesn't seem super believable. Maybe they're just hoarders and they stash money everywhere. I don't know. Okay, here we go. We'll just make something up here. DC 14 to notice that one of the what kind of stuff is in the music? 18 to notice that one of the Oh, here's what we'll say. One of the chests is locked. And here's what we're gonna say. Let's see here. With the hubbub of the horses managed, you take stock of the room. You notice that there seems to be a cello. Oh, wait, it's cello. It's like Jello, but with cello. It seems to be a cello, violin, a few wind instruments that seem to be types of flutes, and many chests, some of which are open and seem to contain various things let's say contain anything from sheet music to special tools for tuning the instruments. There we go. So we'll just describe it as like having plenty of storage stuff for like caring for the instruments. DC-14 to notice that one of the chests is locked. Notice that it's locked. DC will make it easy to like break it open though. DC-11 to pick/break open the lock. And again, I always just say DC-11, right? And I'm saying to pick or break open the lock. I don't want it to just be like, oh, players have to know that they have to do a lockpick, or sleight of hand here to get lucky. It's like if a player's just like, yeah, I take my battle axe and smash into it. It's like, well, shit, if it's a wooden chest, of course that would work. Okay. Yeah, you do that, right? So it's like I always do the DC-11 because that's just like me setting a difficulty slider for how hard it should be to get into that item or that door or whatever it is. So that's why I don't often specify what the check is, only what the DC is. So we'll just set it right there. And then the next part is going to be if they get through it. So as you open the we'll say this chest, particular chest, you see that it was apparently a hidden stash of valuables. Your best guess is that they were hidden here by the family who were worried about looters and wanted to have some wealth hidden away for when they got home. There we go. A little bit of a stretch, but hey, it works. It works. It's good enough. I don't know if a rich person would hide money in a chest in the same home. From what I understand of rich people, what they'd probably do is rather than stashing their money there, they'll tie it up in stocks so that way they don't have to pay taxes, but they can still act like they have billions of dollars. That's what my understanding is of what rich people do, but I've never been a rich people, so I don't know. I don't know. Sorry, that was just a little charged there, my bad. Let's go to our loot gen tool here. This is a tool that I use. Big fan of it when I need to distribute just some monetary wealth and stuff like that. Big fan of it because all you do is you set your challenge rating. I have the challenge rating match up based on what the boss of the floor is, and for this floor that we're doing, the boss is at a challenge rating 3, so we'll keep it at our 0 to 4. Roll loot, and the thing that's like the way this works and what's super awesome about it is that it uses the system, like the tables. Oops, no, go away. It uses the tables that you can see in the Dungeon Master's guide. So it does everything rules as written. It just makes it a lot easier because rather than me having to roll 800 die to decide like first which tables I gotta take things from and then what things from each table, it is so much faster. Excuse me. It does all of that for you. All you gotta do is you gotta copy and paste it. It does like to dole out magic items, just because I have like my rune system for my players, and because it's how I like to run my games. I usually nix out the magic items, not always, but usually, and just take the monetary value because that's what I was going for. So what we're gonna do is 152 gold pieces. We're just not screwing around with the other coinage or anything like that. Some people are into it. Me personally, it's cumbersome. 152 GP worth of coins. And then a lot of times what I'll do is what tab do I did this tab? Oh my gosh, excuse me. Man, oh man. Gotta think that I hate my own stream. I'm sitting here bored to tears, yawning my face off. I swear it's not actually what's going on. I'm just, it's one of those days. I will confess I didn't sleep exceptionally great last night, but I didn't really have the opportunity to sleep in today, so that may be part of it. Might have to take a teensy tiny little bit of a special nap right before, martial arts tonight. We'll see how that all goes. I don't know. At any rate, 152 golden coins, and then I'll just like copy this. I always rephrase. They phrase this so strangely. 25 gold piece art objects times 6 worth 150 gold total. Do the 6 in front, so that way you're like there are 6 25 gold piece art objects, right? Because the way they had it is 25 gold piece art objects makes it sound like all of the objects in total or with 25 gold pieces a piece. 25 gold a pieces. Like a Mario. Not like that at all. What the hell am I talking about? Yeah, I'll just copy this. Oh shoot. Copy that, and then I'll rewrite that part because it bothers me. I don't know why. Like, you can tell how much it bothers me because I point it out, even though it doesn't warrant pointing out. It's just my idiosyncrasy, but it's just, it's weird the way they phrased it. 6x 25 gold piece art objects, and that puts it at 150 total, right? Like that is perfectly crystal clear. 6 25 gold piece art objects. Simple as that. Simple as that. And then we got our total. Now we'll just paste the thing there. Paste, the thing with the stuff. Yeah, the thing. Link gets the Triforce. Silver ear. So 2 of those. Again, I get it, like, in terms of algebra terms, you can do, like, x times 2, but it just, I don't know, it makes more sense to me to put that out front. Right, and know that there are 2 silver ewers as soon as I break out one of them. Can't have one without the other. That's not true, but you know what I'm saying. So, I don't know. That's just my based on stuff. That's just me forcing my sensibilities on everyone else, and ain't nobody like that. So, well, no, there are people that like that. That nobody likes the people that are like that. So I'm admitting that I'm being very unlikable right now. So, I dare you to find the other average human that will be that up front with you. Oh wait, it's really easy because it's called self-deprecation. It's a very popular form of humor. Shit. I'm not special. Damn it. If I'm not special, then what am I? I don't know. I just don't know. Anyway, there's the monetary value of that room. And we're pretty much done writing stuff out for it. Great. On to the next one. On we go. And on and on and on we go. Medium battle. Medium battle. And the medium battles we've already kind of predetermined here are worth, in this situation, 650 experience points. I'm going to write that down here so I don't forget. And now what I need to check here is we already have another medium battle. So I want to make sure, even though they're all kind of supposed to be horses, I do want to make sure that it's not always the same composition for a medium battle, right? Because we've got 4 different types of horses in some cases, that we're using and mixing and matching because they all have different challenge ratings. So it's like between those 4, you just kind of like mathematically try to figure out a good way to fit in, what you want for the battle. So if we've got 650 to experiment with, the only one we won't use is the Lucrata version, which is like a big wild horse, as I've described it, because that's meant to be our boss. There's only one of those. All the rest of them, fair game. So if we got 650, we could do 3 of the Sangzors and then 1 riding horse, and we just call this as we're just calling these horses. I think that's what I'm gonna do. Although actually, I want to double check and make sure I didn't already do it that way. Where's the medium battle? See, I did. I already did it that way. So I know that's how I know it's gonna be a good idea, because I thought of it twice. But it's also why I need to come up with something else, because I don't like recycling and just having it all be the same. I could do 12 riding horses. That would be a battle. Oh, they would die so fast. Oh my gosh, I apologize. Oh, there's no way I'm gonna be fast enough to get my camera. There's a big old bumblebee. It's the first bumblebee I've seen. It's right outside my my sliding glass door there. Oh, bumblebee, no, that's not. Are you a queen looking for a place? No, bud. Oh, you're pretty big. It's pretty big. I'm sorry. Bumblebees are adorable and they're super important to the environment. And I'm an environmental health professional. Like, I have to care about these things. He's so cute. Oh, okay. Bye, buddy. Go away. There's not a good place for a nest there. If it's a queen, there's not a good place for a nest. And if it's not a queen, there's nothing for it up there. Oh, wait. No, it came back. It came back. No, you can't. This isn't. There you go. Okay. Go on. I adore you, but not here. Not here. It's not a good place for it. What do we got here? Okay. Let's see here. Okay, those are... Okay. I'll have to deal with that, but we'll deal with that in a little bit. Not right now. Oh, now there's a bird. Wow, there's just all kinds of wildlife. Kitty's noticing too. There's all kinds of wildlife. I'm sorry. I'm supposed to be doing something on stream. I'm sitting here like getting enamored with springtime. My apologies. What the hell am I gonna do? Oh yeah, we're trying to find another medium battle. Let's do 4 or 5 of these guys and 3 of those guys. That adds up to 6. That's a big. Oh, that's a lot of guys. How big is room 8? Wait, no, that's it. I don't go down to find it. I go to a completely different tab here. How big is room 8? Oh, that's sizable. We can fit lots of horses. Yeah, it makes sense for there's lots of horses. Yeah, so there's going to be 5 of the one and then 3 of the other. That will work. So 5 and then 3. So we'll do 5 of these guys, 5 war horses, and then 3 riding horses, and that'll math out to 650 experience points. Boom. And then we copy of that one. We copy it, and then we come down, and we give it a little paste. There we go. Oh boy. So now we just kind of describe it as always. You walk into what is clearly simply a large entryway. You get the sense that whoever used to own this home was a big fan of throwing large parties in which we'll say during which a host or hostess would have to entertain large groups arriving to a party together. to get her together. There it is. An entryway this large isn't built to welcome only one guest at a time. However, now it seems as though a large number of horses have taken up the mantle of welcoming committee. I need to like quote and capitalize that if I'm treating it like a proper noun here. There we go. The mantle of welcoming committee. Perfect. Yeah, it's like its own title. Welcoming committee. Tragically, they don't appear to be all that welcoming to you. Boom. Mean horses don't want no guests. They don't want no guests. Great. Now the reward for this room is just a little bit of lore. And I think what I'm going to do for this one, so what I've been doing with the lore, so I like to scatter lore around in my worlds just to sort of make it feel a bit more enriched and full of interesting things for people, for players as they're kind of wandering through this area. I like giving that to them. And it's fun ways to just sort of like tell the story. It's a very RomSoft approach to telling a story, to kind of like tell it through things that they can find. But I find that doing that is a really good way, because like when you do that, like if players are more interested in just like kind of beelining towards goals, they're not going to spend their time searching for items, which means they're going to be the parties that miss a lot of the lore stuff. And so it works out. Whereas like if people are really searching and want to know more about the world, they'll be doing that, and that's when they'll find the lore. So it kind of rewards players however much they want, and helps kind of tell add context to a story without me just having to sit down and give them like 20 minutes of exposition at random times, right? Like the concept of a cutscene doesn't really work for D&D, but the concept of finding cool items with history involved does work. So that's why I do a lot of this. And what I want to do for this one is, this is going to be pretty simple. I am going to put a DM note here. We're just going to say DC 11 to notice this paper in particular. Not because I'm trying to hide anything. This is a non-essential piece of lore. But just because to make it feel kind of realistic, I don't want it to just be like they automatically get the thing, right? Like it is possible to miss some of the context, right? So it's not going to stop them from accomplishing their goal, but it might change their understanding of the world and everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say as you are looking through the dusty remains of this room, a letter, we'll say an opened letter sitting on a table near the front door catches your attention. And then we'll just see it. Like, I'm just going to do the next thing, assuming that they pick it up and read it. As you give the letter a read, you learn a bit more about what happened to this city in the days of the unhinging. It appears to be a letter from the former leader of Minadala, outlining that we'll say outlining, yeah, that large numbers of livestock would not be traveling with the party set to go north. The letter also states that Sis, and that's the name, that's the nickname to for the wizard that lives in this area that we're working with, just for anyone who's unfamiliar. Letter also states that Sis will Sis has agreed to help look after any animals left behind there it is, behind, like the thing I'm sitting on, a joy. To help look after any animals left behind, so that they will still be here when you get home. Oh, which we all kind of know how that turned out. They never made it back home. And that's part of what is making Cisco insane, because his mind is just breaking trying to grasp that. Need to do something real quick here. Make this underlined and say lore. I just do that so that way when I'm skimming through my own notes, I kind of have a bit of a heads up about what's in each given room. So cool. All right. Yeah, we're making really good progress. This is gonna go quick. We're definitely gonna finish this today. But we're going to finish this today after I run to the bathroom one more time. We'll run to the bathroom one more time, and then we'll be able to just sprint to the finish, and it's gonna be great stuff. It's gonna be really great stuff when we get there. I promise you, it's gonna be so great. I have no idea how great it's gonna be. It's gonna be so great that you're gonna wonder why I settled for the word great this many times. I'm just gonna say it. Peeing is one of the best feelings in the world. And if you disagree, you should probably go see your doctor, because it just the relief after a good trip to go potty is one of the best things. It's one of the best things, and I 100% stand by that statement. And I think yeah, I think most people would probably agree with me. It feels good, man. One of my favorites too is when you wake up in the morning feeling like P. Diddy, and you just you went to bed, you had a glass of water or something to get yourself ready for bed, and then you just wake up and you're like, uh-oh, and then you get there, and then just the relief and the release, that first morning whiz. Ooh. Spot on. Amazing feeling. Now that we've discussed that ad nauseum, let's try and finish these last 2 rooms, man. If we can get these rooms like described, so that all we have to do is decorate this area, that's amazing progress for this week, considering we started with having nothing of this area prepped, right? So like that's really good progress. Much faster progress than I've been making previously. I think doing this like whole just like setting an entire 4-hour stream, like an entire day to just write, has been the right decision. Like I have been so productive ever since doing this, like making this switch. It's great. I adore it. I've always known that about myself though. Like I'm the kind of person who I work best when I have large chunks of time that I can devote to something, because I definitely am the kind of person who like I'm most productive when I can get momentum going, right? Some people are really good at doing the tomato timer approach, right? Where it's like 20 minutes of work with a 5-minute break followed by 20 minutes of work, right? And they kind of do that because they need to just like focus on small little chunks of time. Not me. When I can sit down and I can just kind of get myself cruising on a project and just start making progress on it, that's when you really start seeing a lot of results out of me. So we're just gaming my internal mental systems here to make me as productive as possible. Don't tell my bosses though. I don't want to do more work without getting paid more, so don't tell them. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's a secret. Shh, it's a secret. Tell. Don't give me away. Don't give me away. Okay, anyway, easy battle, easy to come up with. More like, am I right? Easy daddle, easy battle, easy daddle. That is the term for when you play wrestle with your dad and he just absolutely big brothers you. You know, because he's just way bigger than you are when you're like 5 years old trying to wrestle with your dad. He daddles you. He doesn't battle you, he daddles you. Alright, 350 experience points. How many easy battles do we already have? We've already got 2. We got 3 and 2 for that guy. And then we did 7. Oh, that's right, we did just 7 riding horses. How big is this room again? Room 9. Which one is this one? Just look at our size here. So we got room... Oh, this is a very narrow area, so... A narrow area, an area, if you will. That sounds like a disease. Oh, I came down with an area. Oh, it's making me gag all day long. I don't know. Easy. Okay. Easy battle here. Oh, we need to come up with 350 experience points worth of stuff. Oh, we could do one of each of these. That'd be kind of a fun one. Let's just do one of each of these things. So yeah, easy battle, 350 XP. Line, boom. That's going to be 1. Oops. And then we can come up here. We can just copy and paste dealio here. Copy that one. And paste it there. Oops. I'm going to put the space right now because I'm going to forget to do it for all of them. And I'm going to have to like thread the needle with a little cursor. And then you guys are going to wonder why I'm complaining about it, as if that's something that's particularly hard to do. And be like, this guy is, what, like an 80-year-old man with a tremor in his hand? Why is that too much for him? And just who has the time for all that rigmarole? Am I right? All right, there we go. All right. Poking around the rubble line where the fallen second floor meets the standing first floor are a few horses. They don't seem particularly interested in you, but you get the sense that encroaching on their territory, or territory, if you will, encroaching upon the territory. I'm gonna leave it like that. I just crack myself up, and sometimes it's fun for me to just like indulge a little extra in my own self back pats that we got going on here. And you get a sense that encroaching upon their territory would be a risky move. Yeah, and that's it. They're like, you know, I kind of imagine a lot of the stuff in this area is going to really be dependent, like how many battles players get in versus like whether they can befriend animals. It's really going to depend a lot on good rolls and how patient players are with trying to like tame animals and stuff versus just like kill them to get out of the way. Because everything is kind of being set up like, yeah, there's animals. If you leave them alone, they'll leave you alone, but they're also in the way of where you need to go. So how are you going to handle this one? So it's like, you know, if you have players that are particularly willing to maybe try and do distractions or lead animals out of some way or scare animals out of the way, maybe they'll have an easier go of it. Or maybe they'll just make things harder. You never know. You never know. What you doing down there, kitty? Yeah, I see you. What are you doing down there? Why are you under there? What are you doing? What, do you want to come up? You want to come up and say hi to the world? Come here. Come here. Come up. There she is. Look, there's my kitty's tail. You can only see her tail. I know, that's the mic. The mic's out. I know. See, you're totally fine with the mic being down. It's just when I move it, you always panic and run away. She'll be like sleeping in her bed, and I'll move the mic arm, and she freaks out and runs away. I'm like, why? It's just there. Yeah, you're gonna rub the mic? You're gonna rub the mic and make all kinds of noise? Make all kinds of extra noise for the people there? I guess it's not really making that much noise. That's nice. I know, honey. Very, very distractible. By writing this for personal use or planning to publish it somewhere? I mean, kind of both. Like, one of these days I'll probably use it. But enough people have been asking me about if I would share it, and I'm like, well, geez, if you guys want it. So my intent is once it's done, to figure out what'll be the easiest way to just like, you know, put it on DriveThruRPG or something like that. And so, and I've considered even just like setting out, or sharing out, you know, a couple chapters at a time, because we're like, we're on chapter 6 of what'll eventually be 10 for this full campaign, but they're all small little bits that could be used as like little mini things, and people could just like plop them in their setting. They're complete, you know, like, you know, they're complete things. All you'd have to do is change story beats and stuff so that they're not part of one contiguous story, but they're functional dungeons. So one of these days when I've got time, I do plan to figure out what's going to be the most convenient way. Like, can I share them? Can I like, you know, put them on DriveThruRPG as, you know, OneNote notebooks? And if I did, would that be helpful for people? Should I just like copy and paste it all into Word documents or convert it to a Word or a PDF? I need to look into what's going to be the most convenient way to do all of that. But yeah, enough people have been asking me about it that I'm kind of like at this point where I'm like, well, sheesh, I guess I better do that. So yeah, no, like I don't run my games as modular, but I kind of design them as modular. Just so that way they can, because like I like to have a full consistent storyline that goes all the way through, like from, you know, like beginning to end. But like you can design modular things and just kind of layer stories and change details so that all of like, you know, all of the treasure items that they're hunting are, instead of just being a big diamond, it's like, oh, this is the diamond key and they need to find like 7 other keys, right? That's kind of like what we're doing with this storyline, is it's all like they're finding a handful of keys. And so I just try to design them so that if you just like change up a few of the names, a few of those like the details on lore and stuff like that, it's still a functional dungeon kind of however and wherever you want it to be. So so yeah, one of these days I'll figure it out. The hard part is always time. I have I have multiple plates and all of them are full in my life. I'm a kickboxing instructor. You know, I've got my day job. I do all the streaming and stuff like that. I've got family and friends that I got to keep up with. So one of these days I intend to. But the question is going to be, when will I finally have a weekend that I can sit there and figure it all out? Yeah, it's, you know, it's a good problem to have, because I've got a lot of awesome things going on, and I love all the stuff that I have in my life. But yeah, it is very time encapsulating, no doubt about that. No doubt about that. Yeah. One of these days. Stay tuned and keep bothering me about it, because eventually, one of these days I'll do it, because I genuinely want to. I just, need to be at a different place in time and schedule to figure it out. I know, kitty. Hold on. Everybody say hi to the cute little kitty on my lap. And she has decided she is going to help me edit for the remainder of the stream today. I know. So good kitty. It got a little chillier than we were expecting today, too. So we need to definitely share body heat. I get it. All right. Let's see here. Potions. Potions for our player. Potion center. I need your strongest potions. Cannot handle my strongest potions. I know. Hi, kitty. It's like you make that same joke every time the word potions comes up. Eventually, someone's going to realize it, and they're going to stop thinking you're funny. To which I reply, they're probably already there. I know, kitty. What level is the party? The campaign is meant to take players, a group of 5 players, from level 1 up to level 10. The part that we're writing right now is going to be for when they're around level 6. Is kind of what we're working on right now. This part is very easy, but we have a lot more going on in this chapter, going way down. This chapter has many different mini dungeons in it. So the difficulty picks up quite a bit. So if you're looking at the difficulty of the monsters and thinking that seems a little easy for level 6, you're right, it is. It's early on. This is still early in the chapter when players have just recently turned level 6. So we give them a couple chip shots here so they can just enjoy playing around with whatever new stuff they got. I always like to give players that. So if we're giving them some potions here, I gotta think about why there would be potions in a pile of rubble. Amidst the rubble is a strange collection. Yeah, exactly. Like so many games, like will just immediately ramp up the difficulty when they level up, and I always kind of have this inside of me where I'm like, if you never feel powerful when leveling up, why not just always be at level 1 and or start at level 20 and just always have the really cool stuff? Like, if we're gonna go through the process of leveling up, there should be a phase where we just like get to enjoy how much more powerful we are. I always add that type of stuff in there. Rocks fell on someone who had that's not a bad idea. The setting though that we're working on is it's a mansion that half of the house collapsed, but long after the mansion was abandoned. So I don't think setting wise it would work. I do use that one all the time. Where you see like a little where you see, yeah, like it is cliche. Everyone does it. But I mean, it works. It's so convenient. It's like, oh, there's a skeleton, but his pouch didn't get crushed. Free stuff. Enjoy it. I think what I'm going to do here, I'm going to take away Strange Collection. Amidst the rubble, all done, kitty? Are you going to go take off, or are you going to stand here awkwardly and like, yep, you're going to just like flick the mic with your tail? That's great. Okay, then we moved on. Now we're going to just like sit our little butt down on the edge of the keyboard, so that way our little butthole can just go ahead and click escape a million times. Isn't that right? Cats are amazing. They're kind of gross sometimes, but they're amazing. Such a little turd. She's mad at me because she thinks it's dinner time right now, which is absurd. Because it's not dinner time until like an hour after we're done streaming, but she's going to start begging now. Let's see what we'll do. Giant squirrel. That's a nest full of potions. We could. So, I think what I'm going to do is, because it's a house that's been destroyed, and it's like a wealthy mansion, I'm just going to have there be like a cabinet that's sitting among the rubble. And if they kind of dig through the cabinet, if like me mentioning that there's a cabinet and they decide to rifle through it, they'll find a few potions that were left behind, is what I think I'm going to go for. I like the idea of a giant squirrel collecting them. Just because in general, I like the idea of there being a giant squirrel that they have to contend with. I think that sounds amazing. One of these days. Amidst the rubble, you find what appears to be a half-buried cabinet of some sort. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to, because it's there, no, not highlight, change the font color, make a little DM note. We're just gonna say DC12 to access the interior among the rubble, right? So it's like there's rubble there. It's not like they can just like open it up. They gotta do some digging. They gotta earn it, man. DC12 to access the interior among the rubble. Opening the cabinet, you see what appears to be a small collection of potions. They must be very old, but the seals appear to be intact, and the liquids inside don't appear spoiled. I was like to just like add that little bit there, because it's like they're exploring areas that are like thousands of years old, and it just always feels so, it feels so Skyrim for things to conveniently not have spoiled over thousands of years, right? You know, like that's the Skyrim approach. It's like, oh look, we've entered a tomb that no one's been in for 5,000 years. Look, I found a fresh apple. Like, how? It's in a barrel. It's not even on an underground tree or something. Kitty, what are you doing? What are we doing? Did you want back on the lap? Okay. That's magic, baby. It's a magic apple. Don't tell Snow White. She'll get a little. She gets a little twitchy when she hears that. I know, Kitty. Yeah. You are very affectionate. You are a big old sweetheart. I know. I'm trying to work on stuff though, Kitty. So as per usual, we'll do 3. At this level, we'll make it greater healing potion. 3 greater healing. Kitty, you can't stand here and smack the mic with your tail. That's not allowed. If your tail is gonna be active because you're excited staring out the window, then go over and stare out the window. If you're gonna be here, you gotta be chill. How it works. We'll do greater healing potions, and then I always like to offer like potions that are kind of thematic and fit. And since this is the mansion, like so the animals that are around are all horses, right? And it's because they're the descendants of the horses that used to be the pets, or like the horses that the family that used to live in this mansion owned. Kitty, why are you pacing? You're like a dog circling around trying to find a place to lay down. What is going on with you? Cat is driving me insane. But yeah, because they were a family of horse breeders, I feel like they would have some potions of animal handling or something like that. Have other potions? Yeah. I always give you know, just pure coincidence. You asked it right as I was describing it. It kind of answered the question, didn't I? Yeah, I love giving out all kinds of potions, and I will make up potions just for the sake of having it be fun. So I'm gonna put in potions of animal handling because I think it just makes sense. Like this was a family. Like a lot of the evidence and the clues and stuff that they find around here is that animal friendship. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah, but yeah, they're like there was a house of well-renowned horse breeders. So friendship potions, and so it's kind of fun, and it's kind of thematic. Like I'll take 2 approaches to like thematic. There's either it would make sense for them to be in this location, or they're things that'll be useful for players throughout the dungeon. And a lot of times they're like one and the same. But those are the kind of 2 approaches I take to it. Kitty, what are you working on? Honey, you can go if you want to. She's very indecisive about what she wants to do right now. You are a stinker. I know. Hi, honey. I know. She's such a little stinker. All right. No, I think that's good. I think that serves the purpose. We kind of already did all of like the more intricate details of this dungeon up there. And so these last couple rooms are just kind of simple. Like, I don't know that I want to use the word filler per se, but like, let's be real, that's kind of what they are. Oh, are we doing the thing now? One note where we're gonna not like have our stuff, we're not gonna have, yeah, there we go. Okay, it's this thing sometimes where it's all like, oh, you pressed enter and you're typing anything, but we're not gonna show it. Polymorph potion would be fun. Polymorph. I mean, we've got a second room of potions that we're going to put around here. Because I always put a couple rooms that have some potions there. Yeah, polymorph would be fun. What would be... Why would they... maybe the family was a little too into horses. And they just liked to... They just like to occasionally turn themselves into horses and just like wander around. They're just a little too into it. Add and subtract them as you need to fit the pace. Yeah, exactly. The way I do that, like the way I run my games too, actually, like it kind of ends up being like the players that get to do the pacing, right? Where it's like there will eventually come a time where they kind of know where in the dungeon they need to go to achieve whatever their goal is, and so it's up to them. It's like they can either beeline for that or they can go searching, right? And so it's like, you know, it's up to them what they want to do. And so it's like, you know, do they want to do more battles and explore this place more and maybe get some more information about what happened, or are they just like, no, you know what, we know where we're going, let's go. And like I really like my group of players that I have, because they will like kind of flop between the two depending on what their characters are doing and what the you know, the role play and the story demand of them. And it's like, boy oh boy, like how lucky am I that I have players that don't pigeonhole themselves into one style of gameplay all the time. Rad. All right, let's see. We do need to give them a hard battle McCormick here. Hard battle, which is as we've determined before, worth 950 experience points in this room. 950 XP. We have not done a hard battle yet either, so we can just like have the breakdown of what bosses or what enemies are going to make this room hard. Ever so hard. Ooh, we could do 4 of the Sangs. You know what we're going to do? We're going to make it just worth 1,000. We're going to bump it up. We're going to do 4 of these guys and 2 of these guys. So that'll be great. Hey, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Glad you're enjoying it. It means a lot to me. I appreciate you. I appreciate you being here. Okay, so let's do 4. We'll do 4 and 2. We're going to make this 1,000 experience points. They can handle an extra 50. It won't. I mean, like... The battle could kill them, but it's probably not going to be the 50 experience points of difficulty that will do it. Oh, yeah, that can be frustrating when players always just, like, beeline for the goal. That can, like, especially if you're, like, that would be frustrating for me, especially, because I spend a lot of time putting a lot of, you know, love and care into the lore of my world, and it's like... I do it because I find my own reward out of it, so it's not like it completely ruins the experience for me, but it is always kind of like, oh, well, that was going to be pretty cool, but okay, we can just skip it then. Yeah, exactly. They're going to get potions and everything, and also screw them. I don't know. Like, just deal with it. It's dangerous. You're adventurous. I sometimes... Oops, no, wait, we already did that. I sometimes am a little confrontational and a little adversarial in how I approach my players. It comes from a place of love, because the harder I am on them, the greater their successes are when they do succeed. So it's really, I'm just setting them up for even greater glory. Are you gonna make that jump, kitty? Can you do that? Oh, maybe you're not going to. I don't know. Yeah, exactly. They can get creative. Oh, there she goes. Do it. Oh, you can do it. My cat. Oh, there she goes. My cat has one eye, so jumping to things is a little nerve-wracking for her because she doesn't have the depth perception. So she just wanted to jump from the desk to her cat tree, and sometimes she gets too nervous and doesn't do it. But she did it. She's a strong, independent cat who don't need no second eye. All right, let's see here. So this room 10, this was a bedroom. Well, I mean, it still kind of is a bedroom. It's just, it was on the first floor instead of the second floor now. Does she have a cool pirate name? No, her name's Leela, like from Futurama. You know, Leela, Taranga Leela, the Cyclops. A pirate name would have been fun too. I would give her an eye patch, but she would get real mad at me. She would get real mad at me if I tried to put an eye patch on her. She's a very sweet cat, but it took a lot of work to get her that way. When I first got her, she was very skittish and very defensive, and sometimes she still can be. So it's like if I try to mess with her paws, that's a good way for me to get scratched. And if I pet her more than she wants to, I have to be very attentive to her behavior. Otherwise, she'll get very mad at me very quick. She's a big old sweetheart. But it took a couple years for us to get to a point where she's like chill enough to not spaz out all the time. And she does still spaz out. She has this tendency to just be very jumpy and very spazzy. So if something startles her, she'll just like run. So God forbid something startles her while she's sleeping on your lap because your junk's getting all scratched to hell. Nah. Don't want none of that. All right, hard battle, McCormick. Let's see here. This bedroom seems to have once belonged to an older child, perhaps. A strange mishmash of childish decorations with more adult items sprinkled in suggest the last inhabitant was someone just on the cusp of leaving childish things behind. Something like that. I don't know. Yeah, it was a lot of work, but like when I moved to the city, I needed a new pet, and yeah, like I saw her. She'd been living at the cat shelter for like 2 years because she was so skittish, and like they were like, yeah, she needs like a quiet, chill household, and I was like, that's me. I live alone. Quiet, chill is the name of the game. We'll rehabilitate this kitty. And yeah, I brought her home in August, and I didn't see her consistently until December because she would come out of hiding to eat and then go back into hiding. It took a long time, but we got there, and now she's a little butthole, and I think she's probably, hold on. Yeah, she's running away nice and guilty. Now she's very brave, and she likes to eat my plants when I don't feed her fast enough. Oh shit, get out of there. Oh boy. All items as protected. Oh, good call. I regret having written it that way. With more adult decorations. Well, we're here, and we can make it even more with more grown up. There we go. Good save. Usually I'm on top of that, and it's usually because I'm the first one to make that joke about it sounding icky. But yeah, there we go. Good catch. What is a Sangzor? It's, I don't like, let me just pull it up. I'm using it because it has like it has similar like functions to a horse, and so I'm just reskinning it as a horse. That way it can be a different difficulty. Yeah, it doesn't even have a picture. It doesn't have anything. It's just a creature. I don't know. It's just a creature, but it has like similar things that I'm looking for. Got charge type of stuff. Charge and ram actions. It's probably more of like a goat type thing, but it's good enough that it can like act like a horse that just attacks weird. If we pull it up here, yeah, yep, that's just it. So yeah, I don't know. It's a thing, and I was like, it'll do. Yeah, players do never let that stuff go, which is why I refuse to really ever get attached to an NPC character's name. They'll always make fun of the names of everything. So I try to not get too attached to names or try to take naming too seriously, because they will come up with a stupid name for it. And so it's like, if you go into it thinking like, oh my god, I love this name, this character is so important and meaningful to me, and they're immediately like, yeah, his name's Butts McGill, and it's like, god fucking damn it. So just never do it. Beefed up horse. Yeah, pretty much. Like the whole theme of this was supposed to be horses, but I didn't want it to all just be war horses. So I needed some different difficulty things that were kind of similar. So I was like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, it's a ram. I don't know. It charges, and like horses kind of do stuff like that. Why not? It works. As long as you remember to like say that it's a horse rather than a Sangzor, no one will ever know. Yeah, that's I like that idea. turn it around on them, name all of the NPCs like after their mothers and stuff like that. Like, oh yeah, you want to make your mom joke about that one, huh? Is that what you want to do? Is that what you want to do? Because this NPC's entire existence is a your mom joke. So why don't you get over yourself? Oh boy. Let's see here. So yeah, strange mishmash of childish decorations. Grown-up decorations sprinkled in suggest the last inhabitant was someone. Last humanoid inhabitant. That is. The current inhabitants appear to be a cluster of horses all bunched together. All bunched together and eyeing you very suspiciously. There we go. I don't know. The horses, they're wild horses. They don't really like you getting in their territory. So the house was, like I was saying, the house was previously owned by a bunch of horse breeders. They had to leave. The horses were there. Houses kind of collapsed, and the horses are just kind of like, they make their home in there. They use the house for shelter, and they use the pastures outside for grazing and all that kind of stuff, and they've just kind of become feral horses that live in this area. As for why the players are there, they need to, the short of it is they need to collect a very large gem that this rich family had. There's a whole long thing that leads to it where it's like they need to do this because they need to do this, and they need to do that because they need to do this. But they need to get a large gem, and the immediate next step of it is because they because a wizard nearby needs it to create a teleportation circle for them. So that's why they're doing it. And so basically the players are trying to navigate this wild herd of horses territory, which if anyone's actually looked into wild horses, it's bad news to get in there, gallop in their territory. Like the 80th generation feral horses, it's magic. We can do whatever we want. Yeah, the unhinging happened thousands of years ago. But for thousands of years, these horses have just kind of been living in this area and kind of going feral, is what it is. So, yeah, it's fictional world. We can do whatever the hell we want. Case in point, everything that happens in D&D. Oh lordy. Yeah, simple as that. And then we'll do one last thing because we just gotta get our potions. 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 I need your strongest potions. Yeah, we'll just say. Okay, here's what we can do. I have an idea for this one. I think this is gonna be fun. DC, we'll say DC 14 to notice the floorboards that have been jarred loose. Here's what I'm thinking. Check this out. Check it. As you look around the room, you see plenty of evidence that fits with the... Well, okay, hold on. That's a weird way to phrase this thing. As you look around this room, mostly it seems disheveled. Disheveled? What? Whatever. I don't want to try and figure out why that's not coming up. Because I'm not an English major. I don't know jack about writing. I do this as a hobby. By study, I'm a biologist and a public health person. I don't know how to write. Disheveled? Is that what I'm trying to think of? Disheveled? Oops. Yeah, that's probably what I'm thinking of. Disheveled. I was thinking of disheveled because it's like pronounced like shelf, but like dist. I don't know jack about writing. I've been going for 4 hours. My brain's mush. Thank you for the help. Also, that is much appreciated. Mostly, it seems disheveled from having collapsed from the second story above to the first story, where it now the story where it now rests. I mean, who can spell? It's the English language. They make up rules just for the hell of it. Where it now rests. However, it strikes you as odd that only a couple of adjacent floorboards were knocked loose. On further inspection, it looks like we'll say it looks like the child who once lived here had a secret hiding place and kept a collection of potions pilfered from the family stores. Oh yeah. Only ever once. Which one has a W in it? Yeah, that's absolutely true. There are so many words that just in general, if you've only ever heard them and not spelled them, or vice versa, you would never get the other one, right? There's so many words that you read it, and like that does nothing for you in terms of knowing how to pronounce it. And there's plenty of words that if you know how to say it, you would never be able to spell it, just phonetically. Never. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, a collection of potions pilfered from the family stores. And now we'll go ahead and do our 3. Always give the party 3 of the healing potions. Because I talked about it earlier on the stream. I try to limit the number of long rests players can take. So in exchange for that, just because I know that can feel pretty harsh to players, because of that, in exchange, I kind of give them an overabundance of potions, so they don't have to spend all of their, so that way they can reserve their short rests and stuff a little bit more tightly, for their hit dice replenishing, as well as any healing spells. They can try and limit the use of their spell slots for other things rather than just healing up, right? So that's like kind of the trade-off that I do for players. But I like to do that just because it feels more interesting to me for them to have to do like item and spell slot management as opposed to, all right, battle handled, we go to sleep and keep watch. It's like, yeah, you can always just disrupt their watch, but if they just try to do that, then everything just kind of ends up being the same all the time. So it keeps the flow of the dungeon going better, I find, to just give them a little extra healing potions and stuff. And that's assuming that they take the time to look and find it. If they're not searching around for stuff, then they'll pass it by anyway. So yeah, 3 greater healing potions. And then I keep thinking about that idea that you had about the polymorph potions. So I'm going to totally do that. Polymorph. Hold on. Wait, no. It's not poly as in like poly want a cracker. I kind of like that, though, actually. It's polymorph potions. Polymorph. Polymorph. Whoops. Potion. Parentheses. Turns you into poly. There, it's the polymorph. Oh my lordy. Okay, we're gonna do polymorph potion. Turns people, or we'll say turns you into a horse. There, we're gonna commit to it. Turns you into a horse. Turns you into a horse named Polly. Polymorph potion. There, I'm keeping it. I'm not changing it. Kind of favors the non-casters. I have never had any player disapprove. never had any players disapprove. But I play with my friends, and so if they want to do stuff, I can also be kind of lenient for them too. So yeah, I don't know. I've never, because like it's not that they're not allowed to take long rests. I just make sure that it's not like a situation where they're like, okay, we wake up, walk for an hour in the woods, battle, and then we take a long rest, right? Like I don't allow that at my tables, right? It's like, you long rest either when you're in really dire situations or it's actually nighttime. And so usually what it kind of functionally ends up being, the way I functionally do it is I say, okay, generally speaking, you guys will be able to carry X amount of rations on your pack. So you have that many days to go, and a long rest will advance the day. So be wise and discerning in how many long rests you take. That's how I do it. And so it really doesn't get too many complaints because of that. Because people just kind of learn to use it as just one of the limitations of going. Like, it's hard for them to complain too much about, like, oh, well, yeah, like if we're taking a long rest and it's 8 hours and it advances the day, it's hard for us to complain about that having consequences if we were supposed to be doing something. And like, if we're trying to chase a guy and it's been 7 days, like, yeah, of course it's going to have consequences. So that's how I do it. It's not like I sit there and say no long rest ever. It's just that's kind of the way. And it's like, it does favor non-casters a little bit, but that's one of the balancing acts of choosing to be a caster, because the flip side of being a caster is they're probably not going to be hit with as much. So yeah, exactly. It can kind of be tricky, which is why I just kind of say, like, look, unless you guys are wanting to, like, all of you guys have infinite, bags of holding, you can only carry so many rations, and that just, like, makes sense. Like, you can only carry so many days of food with you, like, and that's like true of the human being. There's a limit to how much food you can carry with you, along with all of your other gear. So, so that's just how I do it. And like I say, I've never gotten complaints from my players, because I also make sure to not, like, I try to keep things balanced around that. How much battle they'll reasonably face in a day, how much battle they'll face in a single dungeon, assuming that a dungeon can be done in a day. It's like I try to keep those things all in mind. And after world building for over 10 years of my life, and then DMing for at least 5 years of my life, I've kind of started to get it a little bit. Balancing things is hard, which is why I just like to play with friends, because then if something messes up, I can just be like, guys, I just completely misjudged this thing and I feel like a dick. Do you want me to throw you a bone here? And they can either be like, yeah, no, that'd be nice. Or they can say, like, no, you know what? It's fine. We'll deal with the challenge. And then we just go from there. So that's why I always play with friends rather than finding games online. Sometimes you can find really good games online, but a lot of times it can be very tricky to find a good group of people. So the flip side is I'm very lucky that I have a group of friends that like to play. If I didn't have that, maybe I'd feel very differently. But anyways, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Great. That's the last room of this particular part of this chapter. That's the last room of this mansion. That feels really good. That's some really good progress, because we started this particular dungeon. We had nothing done. And now we're, like, finished with it. That's really good progress for a single week. Especially considering how much, like, chatting we were doing earlier today about various like all kinds of other D&D things, but not writing on this. Like, I was not focused at all. So it's good stuff. It's really good stuff. I'm really pleased with this. But I am looking at the time. It is 3:30, which means I gotta go, because I gotta start getting ready to go do some kickboxing instructions. I got people that want to learn how to beat other people up, and dang it, I gotta do it. Is there gonna be a dire horse? Kind of, yes. There is a boss battle. We already filled out the room that had the boss battle. That has that's what the Lucrata is. He's like the big bad horse, and that's just of this little area. There's other bigger, badder animals throughout this entire city that they're exploring. So yeah, this guy right here. This guy is a bit of a horse boss, so to speak. So yeah, I always like to have, like, some sort of, like, boss, mini boss slash chapter boss. There's all of the above to sort of capstone all of this stuff. But yeah, like I was saying. I gotta get myself ready to go. I gotta go be a teacher and instructor for people that want to learn to punch and kick good, and want to learn to do other stuff good too. So I gotta get myself going here. Let me go ahead and get us to our just chatting, and I can go over the rest of the week's schedule. Today's Thursday, which means we only got one day of, like, scheduled screaming. I scheduled it. You got to get a good scream. I like to schedule it so I don't miss it. No, scheduled streaming this week, which is going to be tomorrow, Friday at 11:30 a.m. Tomorrow is a gaming day. We're starting up Halo 4. We're working our way through all the Halo campaigns, and so we're going to switch over to Halo 4 now. We just finished Reach last time, so that's what's going to happen tomorrow. There is a good chance I will log on and stream tonight, but we'll see. We'll see how kickboxing and stuff goes. Sometimes I'm just real tired, but if I do stream tonight, you can come on a little later tonight in a few hours and check me out while I'm playing some Elden Ring. We're continuing with our Wolverine Belinda run. She's Belinda Reen. She's beautiful and terrifying. So yeah, so there's still a little bit of streaming left this week. You can check me out. My usual schedule: Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern time zone is when I usually start. Mondays and Thursdays being my writing days. Tuesdays and Fridays being gaming days, and then evenings when I get the chance and when I have the time to, I like to log on, but those are much less guaranteed and promised that I'll be there. But that's what's going on with my schedules. You can, follow and get the notifications if you want to know when I'm going live. If you don't like to follow via Twitch, I do have a Discord server you can get hooked up with. I put announcements there about when I'm going live and what's going on with the stream. I also have a Twitter, Envira Streams on Twitter. You can follow me there. I like to put out tweets when I'm going live, as well as just other random little things. So all kinds of ways to stay connected and know when I'm going live. So keep your eyes on all that stuff. I also have an Instagram. I'm talking about how I do rock climbing and I do rock climbing. I've been talking about how I do kickboxing. And then I also have my cute, adorable cat. If that stuff interests you and you feel like it, you can follow me on Instagram, EnviraBoy Streams on Instagram. I put little pictures of the cat and clips of me training and all that kind of stuff up there too. And then the last place you can find me also, I do have my YouTube channel, EnviraBoy on YouTube. If you want to see some of the other stuff I've written, if you want to see some of the games I played and stuff, I put all my VODs up there on YouTube, so they're just there if you are so inclined. And that's what I got. That's what I got. I appreciate so much everyone who stopped by. Had so much fun. Lots of good conversations today. Oh, I love all the ideas you guys come up with. I love the questions that you guys ask. It just makes it so much more fun than just sitting there and silently writing on my own. So, I just appreciate everyone who stopped by. I say that every time, and I mean it every time. I appreciate you guys. Have a blast doing it. And, yeah, that's what I got. So take care of yourselves. Have a good day. And I will catch you guys maybe later tonight. If not, I'll catch you tomorrow. Whenever I catch you next, whenever it is, I am looking forward to it, and I can't wait. So take care of yourselves, and I will catch you cats on the flip side. Yeah.